Hey, thanks for clicking on the video. This is going to be another episode of SNTR Gaming News. And in this episode, we're talking about another instance of mass reporting still happening in New World. I want to break down what exactly happened, what should be the response here, and honestly, why is this still happening? If you like these types of videos, hit subscribe and the bell button so you don't miss it. We start with the actual video that you're probably looking for, and then we follow it with a discussion. That's why the video is a little bit longer. This is a live stream. This is an SNTR update. New World mass report bans seem to be happening again, or at least people are still trying to do them, which would indicate it is still possible for it to work. If you like these update videos, be sure to hit subscribe and the bell button, or check me out on SNTR Gaming, where I streamed this live. This came from a report from Game Rant, which we will be borrowing from, which pulled from a Reddit post showing a streamer working with somebody actually planning to do a mass report before a war to help them win. This was the report from Game Rant. A Reddit user by the name of Jack Dark Shade recently shared a post with a clip attached, showing that reporting people en masse is still being done in order to make it easier to claim territories. In fact, a streamer is shown talking to other New World players, suggesting that they mass report the leader of an enemy company or group of players, regardless of the results, if this results in a temporary or permanent ban, just so their faction can have an easier time conquering the desired areas. Now, this is something that you simply should not do, and obviously that's not what the reporting system is there for. This should result in permanent bans on anybody who's abusing this system, as well as anybody who's going along with it. The streamer in question should also probably suffer some consequences on the platform that they were streaming, since virtually every streaming platform has rules against streaming yourself, partaking in, or encouraging the breaking of other companies' TOS. So what exactly is going on? According to the Game Rant article, as it stands, it only takes 10 to 15 reports for New World's automated system to ban a player, which means that it's extremely easy to mass report anyone for any reason. We don't know the accuracy of this claim from Game Rant. We don't know if this is actually how it works, because this has never been explicitly addressed in sort of a, hey, that's not really possible. Now, New World sort of talked around that. Amazon Games has said, well, we check everything, we don't really ban people that way, and yet there were numerous conflicting reports on Reddit of people saying, it still works, we did it as a test. Like, somebody made a new character and he had all his buddies report him to test it out, and it worked. I don't know if anything has happened since that test and since that report came out. Also, where's the response here? Are they actually putting things in place to prevent this from working? Because this guy actually didn't get banned. So what's the solution here? He didn't get banned, so we don't know if it doesn't work as effectively as it used to. We don't know if him drawing attention to it on Reddit helped Amazon get in front of it and not do it. Maybe they saw his username, maybe they took action. We don't know. There hasn't been an official response from Amazon Games about this. When a public figure is seen on a live stream partaking in something like this, there tends to need, I think, in my estimation, there needs to be a public response so that everybody kind of knows what in the world's going on. You need to punish companies and players severely and work with streaming platforms to enforce bans. So Amazon, given that they own Twitch, should be reaching out to Twitch moderation to take care of this, to get rid of the streamer that was partaking in this, at least temporary. I don't necessarily think it needs to be a permanent ban because he was listening to somebody else, but at the same time, you have to enforce those rules. It is also possible that people combed over Reddit and flooded this up the flagpole to Amazon Games to prevent this guy from getting banned. This is an ongoing problem, it seems. PvP being central to the game will continue to drive this type of player because players tend to try to get every advantage that they can. I believe a response is needed. Since the guy wasn't banned, could we find out why? Was there action taken? Is this sort of a spook story? Given that the guy on the stream is saying, oh, we'll do this, and he outlines how they're going to do it, I would think that it still works to some degree, or why would you continue to try? I mean, it's the end of December and people are still trying to do this. That means it probably works a portion of the time. Questions are, has it been fixed? Did they take action in this particular instance? And what's the plan going forward? As always, if you like these updates, head over to SNTR Gaming. You might catch me live, and hit subscribe and the bell button. That way you don't miss the videos. I'll see you in the next one. And I'll see the rest of you this morning. Apparently, this is still a thing. People are still doing this. They are still mass reporting, and this is absolutely against The rules in terms of service and people and companies partaking should be severely punished for doing this, without question. I don't think this is really up for debate. The question is, why has this not been directly addressed in some sort of a patch? They said that it didn't work. They recently, in a post, I remember reading it, talking about how bans work. They were like, well, that's not really how it works. Well, then why in the world would people still be attempting to do it? It clearly works some of the time if these guys are willing to do it, right? Find them and destroy them. Yeah. Find them and ban them. Let me let you in. No, I can't do the voice. It's too early. It's too early. Allow me to share a revelation that I've come to from my time here. New World players are a disease. Find them and ban them. Yeah, that would be a good bit. That would be a good meme about players that do this sorts of things. I don't know. I never did like doing a cheese or going for the easiest path. I stayed at a newbie in Conan Exiles for like a month. Well, every player is different, Chris. For sure. Not everybody is going to look for the shortcut. But generally, it is instinctive for people to say, "Hey, I'm still muted in Discord. Sorry." It is interesting that people would say, "Oh, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it." Somebody will, right? If there's anything we know about human nature, it's that the people will do this. They will find a shortcut. They will find some path around the right way to do things, and then they will do it. And I think Amazon needs to be very forthright in saying, listen, this is something that is still happening in the player base, and we are taking strong action against those who do it. Because I think in general, they never actually put a stop to it. I just think they said, yeah, it doesn't really work. And I don't know if that was smoke and mirrors for them to say, oh, we don't want people doing it. Because there's a delicate balance here. There's a delicate balance. What's good, Feed? I see you in the chat. The delicate balance is very simple. If Amazon comes out and says, yes, this is happening, or, oh, we're taking action against people doing this, there will be a portion of the player base that'll be like, oh, let's have a go at that. Let's try that out and see if that works. We'll sort of gamble and see if they catch us. They don't want to necessarily signal boost and exploit. That's one of the challenges as a developer. Like, if you specifically address a problem with words and not action, you are merely signal boosting the exploit. Does that make sense? So if you come out and say, yeah, people are doing this, and we report them to us, we'll take action, blah blah blah, it could turn into just a giant mudslinging fest of like, well, you mass reported us, and it's like, we didn't mass report you, we didn't mass report you, we won that war fair and square, or whatever the case may be. So I tend to think that they were very vague in their response to dissuade people from trying it. Right? They were like, listen, this isn't really how it works. We check every report. That's not how people get banned, blah, blah, blah. I think they did that hoping to dissuade people from trying it out, right? If you're worried that your player base is gonna start doing this, like every time there's a war, you're gonna have players being like, oh, well, just do this, and then they'll lose their players or whatever. Well, a lot of people would say, oh, well, Amazon says that's not how it works, so we're not gonna bother. Now, that doesn't necessarily dissuade people from trying it, right? That's one of the reasons that punishments have to be severe and systems have to be put in place to prevent this from happening. It can't just sort of be like a wave of the hand, like, yeah, well, that's not really how it works. And then slowly but surely, the word starts to spread within the dark parts of the game. The bad actors start to say, oh yeah, well, we tried it and it seems to still be working. And then they tell their friend, and their friend tells another friend. And before you know it, it starts rearing its head again. I happen to think that if people are trying to do it, or the guy said, oh, we'll take care of it, or we'll do whatever, and he literally explains to the guy who to target. He was like the leader or anybody with a crown or something. he like has a strategy on how to do it. I don't necessarily think that that he would be saying that if this thing wasn't working. So we'll see if they come out with a response about that, given that Game Rant picked it up, and there's a clip of a streamer basically laughing his way through this plan. You gotta wonder what's going through a streamer's head when that happens. I mean, maybe you're streaming to two people, Nightbot and your mom, and so you don't think anything of it, but like, you gotta wonder if somebody's gonna find that, clip that, and see that. I mean, what do you actually, doing? I was AFK but listening. The Smith bit was great. Thanks for that. Yeah, there you go. I can do a decent Smith. I can do a decent Smith. We fall in a similar octave. I like his halting speech, in one life, and he like flips open the thing. You work for a respectable software company. You help your landlady take out her garbage. In another life, and he like opens the folder, he's like takes the thing and he slowly spins it. There's so much artistry in that scene. How can you make a phone call if you cannot speak? He's excellent. He's so good. Hugo Weaving is a master. He's a master. Might have been a dumb marketing stunt by the streamer to draw attention. Well, I don't think so. Takashi, because they are getting ready for the war. They're planning it. They're doing whatever. And the guy in the background is like, we'll do this, It doesn't seem like something that was planned. Like, oh, yeah, we'll do it. We'll do this, Yeah, he does kind of sound like Sagan. The universe is all there ever was, all there, and all there ever will be. I liked when he explained the curvature and how societies understood that a long time ago with the shadows. I thought that was a great video. They're like, just show this to your friends if they're falling prey to this nonsense. He has like the piece of cardboard and the towers attached to it. It's cool. Yeah, me too. By the way, I dropped a white chocolate bomb in my Rageous Roast this morning. Curiosity got the best of me. It was a good decision. I tell you, the flavor palette of Rageous Roast, it really takes to creamers and different things very well. You can drink it straight black, but it does. I've gone back to light roast. Oof, what a decision that was. It is so good. So good. Let's get a poll going here. Let's get your guys' thoughts on this. Let's see. Do you think mass reporting still works as an exploit? Let's see. As an exploit. Do you think mass reporting in New World still works as an exploit? That's all I want to know. Yes or no, do you think it's still working? Just based on this report from Game Rant, based on this thing, it's a New World exploit that allows you to, you mass report people and then they can't play when the war comes up or whatever. And this Game Rant article, this Reddit post, this clip of this streamer surfaces. And, do you think it's still working? Do you think my theory is sound that they wouldn't be discussing doing it and have a game plan for doing it if it was not, in fact, still working? No, I've not checked out Arcane yet, no. So, when I look at situations like this, the question I always ask is, and this was something that was happening very early in New World, people would sort of go to the forums and say, oh, I reported on this exploit, I reported on this thing, and they deleted the post. They're trying to hide it or whatever. It's like, that's not necessarily how it works. It's not exactly how exploits in games like this work. Invicta, thank you for half a year of support. That's 6 months. You the best. Welcome back. That's not really how it works, okay? In general, companies like this don't want to be signal boosting things that are bad for the game. So if you go to the forums and you're like, I discovered this thing, I want you guys to know about it, right? And you outline the steps, they may redact those steps from your post. They may say, hey, thanks so much, and then hide your post because they don't want somebody to screenshot that and then circulate it on Reddit or Twitter or wherever else, wherever they don't have an actual, ability to moderate. They're like, what are they going to do? What are they going to moderate Twitter? I mean, you might as well try and moderate, I don't even know. You might as well try and moderate the Thunderdome. You're not going to moderate Twitter. So they don't want that stuff to circulate. So there was a time when New World first came out, and New World gameplay was in a shaky spot. There was weird things happening. There was an exploit. There was this that could dupe gold. There was all these different things that people were doing. And then they would go and kind of report them on the forums. And folks started forming these like wild conspiracy theories that like, oh well, they're hiding our posts or deleting our posts because they don't want the truth to get out. It's like, no, they don't want other people doing those things. Like that's not gonna work. You can't let lots of people that either scour the forums or Reddit or wherever see the steps that you take to, duplicate gold or something. That's not ideal. You can't have that just hanging out there in the wind. So I tried to tell people early on, I don't think they're trying to like keep these things hush-hush. I think they're trying to minimize the damage. Now, when it comes to the mass reporting thing, this obviously got out into the public. Like, people were talking about it. There were videos that were made. We talked about it here. I don't think we've ever explicitly covered this because it seemed like it was sort of over and done with. They were like, no, that's not really how it works. That's not really how getting banned in the game works. And so I thought, well, maybe these are just a bunch of, like, big fish stories. Like, people are going to Reddit and crying and saying they were mass reported when in fact maybe they were doing something that they shouldn't have been doing, and they know, well, this will be a great tall tale, I can tell, and then people will side with me. Well, I mean, we didn't cover it. And so then I hadn't heard much about it. Now, people would periodically come in here in my chat and be like, oh, no, it's still happening. People are still doing it. But I wasn't seeing reports of it anywhere. So I thought that could be paranoia. You could have people in your company that are doing bad things, and then they just blame it on that. The timing always made me very curious, right? The timing always made me curious because I thought, if people are in fact cheating or using like a New World exploit and they get caught, why are they all getting caught right before a war happens? That was the question that I had back when this first broke. I thought to myself, now hang on a minute. I'm a logical guy. If people are doing exploits and cheats, you'd be catching them and being like, hey, you can't do that. Boom, and you'd hit them. I can't imagine that Amazon Games is like sort of waiting and being like, okay, so it just so happens that the leaders and the top guys that are going to be the highest ranked in this war, it just so happens that we all suddenly caught them cheating. They were all using this New World exploit, and we just caught them all. And now they're all out for 2 days. I don't think that would be the case. That doesn't seem to make sense. Like, if I look at that and try to come up with a plausible explanation as to why that would have happened, why a particular group of people within a company would have been suddenly temporarily banned seemingly out of nowhere, right in time with the war, well, I would tend to think that was people doing it. Somebody is using your mass report exploit. According to Game Rant, it only takes like 10 or 15 to get it. And then again, there was the guy that said, hey, I made a brand new character, joined my friend's server, and I told them all to report me. And he said it was like immediately when the 15th report hit, or whatever the number was, I don't know what the number was. When that number hit, boom, he was gone. He was out. Which is insane to me, because why would you let people just be like, hey, let's all stand around in the town and just report people as they come walking in, like in the Chevy Chase movies, like Merry Christmas, kiss my, Happy Hanukkah. Just like everybody's coming into the town for, the Christmas holiday season. They're just like, get that guy. And then you got your 15 friends. If it's that simple, how are you not catching the people mass reporting, right? Don't you have a system to like reverse engineer this and be like, well, it seems awfully strange that, 15 people from your company methodically went through and reported people in another company, and they all got temporarily banned right before you had a war with them. Well, that seems awfully strange. Like, you should have a system in place that if one company is about to play against another company, and all these reports come flooding in from Company A against Company B, and they haven't even fought in the war yet, That should send off a bunch of alarm bells like, whoa, 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 something nefarious is going on here. Why are you guys over there submitting all these reports right now, like right before the war, like a day before or whatever? So they've got to rework this system, because again, I'm just applying basic deduction here. These guys wouldn't have been trying to do it the last week of December, 3 months after the game came out. They wouldn't be trying to do it 3 months into the game's life cycle if it wasn't still working periodically or sometimes. YouTube Premium is your friend, and there could be something coming that having YouTube Premium will give you a membership to a channel. So we're hoping that is the case, because YouTube Premium is well worth the value. It's very, very good. If you're new and you're coming in, we are talking about a New World mass reporting ban exploit. I think that's our title this morning. And there was a Reddit post. A guy caught a streamer basically planning to do this. Game Rant picked it up. So we're talking about it this morning. And I want to know, take the poll at the top of the chat, do you think this is still going on? Was this just somebody being like desperate, like, oh, they're desperately trying to win the war, like, well, let's see if the mass report thing still works, or does it still in fact work? It's got to be hard to balance that kind of automation. Normally it would probably be good if a group could quickly target a bad actor and get them yeeted. Sure, but the problem is, then, if it's all automated, then you're talking about vigilante, not just vigilante justice, you're talking about weaponizing the brute squad, essentially. Like, if the ban squad is basically just automatic, and if enough people hit a player, well, then wouldn't you be able to do that in the middle of the war? Just be like, oh, this guy's been real trouble for us. And then you just wham, everybody slams him with a report. Now, I don't know if they suspend or they stop that type of thing from working once you're in the war, to maybe mitigate this. Like, maybe they understand, like, this sort of thing would happen. And that's also bad, because then you could have somebody going into the war knowing that, like, oh, well, now I can cheat because none of the reports are going to do anything until after the fact, and then you win the war. Now, the hope would be that if they do that and those reports came in, that then they would run the report and say, oh, wow, yeah, you were doing something kind of nefarious and weird in that war. You had a refresh rate that didn't make sense or something, or you had health that didn't make sense. Well, then you would bop that person. You'd be like, okay, we checked this. Imagine having to be the guy that has to police New World players and reckon of stuff that's legit. Right, like how much of it is legit. Takashi says, I was skeptical of the premium. My friend has been using for a long time now and was telling me to get it. I got it last year and I never looked back. Yeah, never seeing an advertisement, closing the app on my phone and being able to, to have it run in the background is just such a huge benefit, right? Off topic, dope shirt. Nice. Thank you. Yeah, guys, don't forget, if you're new this morning and maybe you've never been here, I'd love to hear from you, especially if you're a fan of New World. We cover a lot of MMORPGs here. Yesterday, we covered Ashes of Creation and met a bunch of dope people who are fans of that game. And then today, we're covering New World and Horizon Forbidden West this afternoon. I've got a show for that, a good topic there. And if you're new, hit subscribe. That way you can talk in chat. We'd love to meet you. It is free to subscribe on YouTube. Doesn't cost anything. I'll be in your sub feed throughout the week doing a talk show like this, hanging out in the morning, and I'm safe for work, so some people just throw me on in the background like video game radio, talking about all the games that may or may not interest you. So thanks for being here this morning. Don't forget to smash like and go through your daily ritual. There are other ways to support the channel. If you've got questions about how to do that, you can become a paying member, order coffee, a t-shirt, or a disc plate. All of those are great ways to support. They should just get rid of the auto ban system. These things are too easy to abuse. Hire people to look into reports and ban manually. Right, it might be more expensive, but it is Amazon. They have the money. Well, here's the thing, though, Atomic. I do think if a person is doing something exploitative and a bunch of people see them doing it out in the open world and they're all reporting the guy, over the course of the day, if that guy gets 20 reports and none of those people have any commonality between them, those reports should have a lot more weight, right? You understand what I'm saying? When 15 people from the same company report a guy, you should have something in place that's like, well, now hang on a minute. What's going on here? But if it's throughout the day and they're all randoms and no one's connected, no one's friends, no one's ever played together, the system should say every vote is weighted in relation to the votes that preceded it or come after it. So if you're vote number 7 on some guy that's cheating, and you're vote number 7, and you have 0 ties to all the people that have voted before you, your vote counts pretty strongly. It's like, oh, okay, all right, yes, this is the 9th person to say that this guy's doing something he shouldn't, okay? And then the rest of the day, those reports come in. That doesn't even mean you automate it. You would just throw that guy on the top of the pile. Be like, well, we better review this guy. Like, New World gameplay centers around the idea that, like, you need to be able to go in the world and have it be fun and it's living and there's the threat of PvP or there's people roaming around chopping trees down. And if you got people doing exploits and cheats, that really sours the experience, even if you're not in a war. When we found the bots on the one server that I'm on, when we found bots that were farming nodes or fishing spots, it was infuriating. It's like, I wish I could, like, get in their way or slightly move them so that they're no longer working. You're talking about a trust score for reports. Right, you would call it a trust score, exactly. You'd be like, well, now hang on a minute, like, 15 people who are all friends and who are all in the same company all just reported this person. Well, that's not very trustworthy. Unless it's like during a war, and then you would still be like, well, let's hang on a minute. Let's actually check and make sure that the person's doing something wrong. Wouldn't it be weird if a bunch of people got together who were all friends and decided to say something that wasn't true? I mean, that sounds so foreign, doesn't it? That would never happen. It happens all of the time. Like, of course, yes, they're all friends. They're all in the same company. They literally have a war coming against the very person they're reporting. You know, come on. Why would that not be immediately suspicious? Is there not a way that Amazon can freeze a New World account just to halt and review the reports before setting the ban? Well, that's not as easy because you got to think about it. Okay, so day to day, they're hitting like 110,000 player peaks. Okay, so at any given time, you've got anywhere from 25 upwards to 100,000 people playing at a time. And everybody looks at that and thinks, oh my, the game's in trouble because they're comparing it to like week 1 through 3, which you're never going to maintain those numbers, right? And so it's really difficult to basically have a department that's dedicated to being like, well, we're going to have to comb over every one of these reports all throughout the day because they're likely happening all the time. They didn't even have people that were monitoring like the world chat. The world chat was a disaster. There were people blatantly selling gold. There were people blatantly breaking TOS or saying offensive things. They didn't have anybody moderating that. I mean, I think they had an automatic moderation tool, but like that doesn't work all that well most of the time. Like if somebody wants to come in here and say something offensive, you know, as Ian Malcolm said, life will find a way. People will figure out a way to get past your automatic filters and your automatic sort of detection stuff, right? Will you ever cover Guild Wars 2 as well? I just don't see the reason to. That's a very old game. There'd have to be a reason. There's a significant problem with covering very well-established MMORPGs, and that problem is no one's gonna care what I have to say, right? We were considering playing through like Final Fantasy 14 just periodically, maybe weekly, slowly moving through the story. People would really enjoy that, right? Maybe, but covering Final Fantasy 14, I don't know. We'd have to measure that as we experimented with playing through the game. Covering Guild Wars 2, I mean, my gosh, no one's going to come looking for Guild Wars 2 coverage right now. Like, what honestly would I have to say, and what would people want to hear at this point in the life cycle of that game? And we're looking at games like Star Citizen. We're looking at games like Star Wars The Old Republic, since they've got really, really big plans for next year. You know, we're looking at Lost Ark. We're looking at Ashes of Creation. We're really enjoying periodically playing New World. I've kind of taken a break because I thought the winter event was really, really cool. I thought the New World winter event was actually pretty cool. There's a new expansion coming for Guild Wars in 2022. I got to tell you, I still don't think I would cover it. I don't. I mean, I may report on it, but there's literally no way, with as established that game is, that I would waste a minute of time being like thinking that I could cover that game and anybody would give a rip. Generally speaking, the problem is with established franchises is the fans of that game come to YouTube and they know exactly who they're looking for to get their coverage. We ran into that with Elder Scrolls Online. We played it the day this big expansion dropped. It dropped on PC early, and we were just dead in the water. Now, that again was a long time ago. We weren't really established in MMOs yet, so maybe we'll be in a different position by then. But generally speaking, I'm setting my sights on new games because there is no Ashes of Creation community yet. There was not a New World community before September, and that I think has helped us a lot. And we got to be a little strategic. I can't play every game under the sun, and I certainly can't cover games that are old and well covered by other big streamers and YouTubers. Off topic, but I'm still looking for a Tide Me Over game while I search for PS5. I see Kana on sale via PS Plus Deluxe Edition for $35. Opinions. It is beautiful and it is brutal. It is very, very challenging. The combat in it has been compared to Dark Souls, so prepare yourself. It is not it looks all Pixar movie adorable, and then it'll absolutely bust your teeth in. I'll listen to you cover sweater knitting. I appreciate the fact that you guys would watch me do anything. It's not about that. It's about what the audience on YouTube is doing. We have to always extend beyond where we are now. We can't try to stagnate and be like, well, we can do whatever we want. We have loyalists. No, that's not how you that's not how you have a career in live streaming and in YouTubing. So, and honestly, to be quite honest with you, there's going to be too many games, okay? Because if we start planting our flag in Lost Ark and Elden Ring and whenever Ashes of Creation lands, there's going to be regular updates to New World. We're not going to be in a position to start playing multiple MMOs. That's incredibly hard. A lot of the guys that cover MMOs are uploaders. Well, of course, they can no-life the game for an entire weekend and then fill your week with content. Well, I can't do that. I'm a live streamer. I'm a dad. I'm married. I can't live my life that way. I gotta live my life on life's terms. Like I gotta make hay while the sun is shining, which for me means I gotta do things while I'm streaming, largely. And we are doing recordings. I got a good video for you today. Which one did we opt for, Creature? Did we opt for the therapy one or the other one for SNTR Presents today? I got Mortal Shell and Guardians of the Galaxy from the Steam sale. That's gonna be fun. I'm interested in what you think of Mortal Shell. If you're just tuning in for the New World mass reporting ban exploit, it apparently is still going on, okay? It's still going on. There was a Reddit post. There was a video of a streamer talking to a guy. They were planning on doing it. Game Rant picked up the story, so we're covering it. It appears that Amazon tried to say, no, that's not really how a reporting system works. We've seen conflicting reports sporadically, ever since they've said that. People being like, the one guy said, no, I made a brand new account and joined my friend's server. They all reported me and I got bopped. And so my logic on that and my logic on this is pretty simple. I don't think 3 months into the life cycle of the game, because this game launched end of September, and now here we sit at the end of December. I don't think people would be planning to do it if it didn't work. Keeps catching the light. Oh yeah, I've got like a little band-aid. I got like a teeny little cut on I bonked my head on the stupid I bonked my head on the dumb. I have a new what do you call it? A boom for split screen, and I whacked my head on this piece of plastic and it gave me a little cut. So I've got like one of those little almost like see-through band-aids on it. I trust Lono's insight in this. I, for one, am exactly like he described. I don't look for new sources if they prove their worth. Definitely not watching streams of not established people. And if we get to the point that we're established in MMOs, me going and playing like a DLC in RuneScape 2, you know, who knows? People might be like, yeah, let's go check this guy out. He covers lots of MMOs. Like, this is what I want to do. I want to become the guy that plays MMO like a human being. Like a dad, okay? Like a working person with a job, right? Yeah, the Christmas tree's gone. I as soon as Christmas is over, I tore the Christmas tree down. It's just in the corner of the room. That's what I think would be good. I think that's sort of my niche. It was my niche in the other game that we covered, right? I didn't play the game like a streamer, okay? And I certainly didn't argue for things for the hardcore or for the streamers. So when I play New World and when we check out Lost Ark and when we check out all these other MMOs, I'm going to play them like me. And I'm going to cover them like me. I think that's really palatable because I think more and more gamers are getting to the place where they can't play like that anymore. Like we talked about this the other day, right? Like the lion's share of the gaming community is like what, 28 and up. Well, what happens when you're 28 and up? You've got responsibilities. You've got a job, maybe a new relationship, maybe a new baby, maybe you're going back to college or whatever. That age bracket, I think, is more and more saying like, man, I love gaming and I'm playing gaming every day. It's a booming industry. It's growing. But, dude, I can't play for 6 hours a night to get, you know, my character advanced in the world. I think more and more the way that I play and the way I kind of cover and think through these games, I think that's going to be appealing to a lot of gamers. They're going to be like, yes, this is how I play. And they're going to want to know what the experience is like. Like, what does it feel like to play this game on limited schedule time, you know? Is MMOs really big, though? I don't see a lot of MMO channels that are actually big. Well, Noah, this is something that has been told to me. I was told by somebody, they said the reason you should get into MMOs is the MMO world doesn't have a you. They don't have a Lono. They don't have a guy that speaks in the way that you do and breaks down games in the way that you do and is willing to have conversations with the public. He said there's not really anybody out there that does it, right? You have Asmongold, and after that, it gets a little thin, right? It gets difficult to find somebody who is, other than, you know, you got Josh Strife Hayes and a few others, but there's not a ton of really big YouTubers covering MMOs in that way. And even I don't cover MMOs in the way that Josh Strife Hayes does. I cover MMOs as me, as a dad, you know, as a husband, as a guy that's like, yeah, I'll play your game for a couple hours a day. And if I think it stinks, I'll tell you. And if I think it's to this, I'll tell you. And what did we run into in New World? What was my primary thing? I was like, I hit 40 and everything sucks, right? I hit 55 and I want to gouge my own eyes out. You know, we tried to do something the other day in an area that was 58 to 60, and I was like, I'm done. I don't want to play right now. This isn't fun, right? So, the person that told you that wasn't wrong. You're pretty unique. I don't have delusions of grandeur, but I think the way that we break down games, MMOs, the way this community operates and ticks, the way that we have discussions, I think we can bring something excellent to the MMO genre. I think we can. I think we have to be very choosy and we have to be selective, but I think we can do it. I think we can dive into an MMO, chop it up, talk about it, and then dive into another one, talk about it, chop it up, and then periodically come back to the game. Oh, hey, they did this thing. Let's check it out. Oh, hey, they did that thing. Let's check it out. So if you're new here, we've been covering lots of different games, and one of those games is New World. And this morning we're covering New World Mass Reporting Ban Exploit. Apparently it's still around. There was a streamer who got caught sort of planning to do it. It got posted on Reddit. Game Rant picked it up, ran with an article. We referenced that article this morning. And the question we have for Amazon Games is, listen, if this is still going on, what are you doing to stop it? Now, this guy that got mass reported, or at least they were planning to mass report him, he didn't get a temp ban or anything, and his team won the war. His company won the fight or whatever. So, the question would be, Did they get tipped off by the Reddit post and did they decide not to mass report him? Did Amazon see the Reddit post and make sure that he didn't get, mass reported, right? And what are they doing going forward? Why are people still planning to do this 3 months after the game's launch? I applied very basic logic to it. If people are jumping into New World gameplay in the end of December and they've got a war on their hands and they're still planning the mass report, then it must be still working to a certain degree, even if it doesn't work all the time, right? Some men are more boys who game so much they've never seen. Well, I mean, I don't think that's necessarily the measure of a man, whether or not you've seen a woman without her clothes on. I think that's not necessarily how you quantify a man. When I was in the 6th grade, I had a Playboy with Pamela Anderson shoved in my face, and I wish it wouldn't have happened because I was in 6th grade. I didn't need to be looking at that. It messed me up for a while. I felt. Why did you show me that? I didn't understand it. I didn't have a category to understand it. Did I suddenly become a man because I saw that picture? I don't think so. The only problem you might run into with MMOs, as I'm an MMO player, is that most MMOs do not really get going until later in the endgame, which does require some decent time investment. This is exactly the thing, though, D-Crucedes. This is the thing. I actually think lots of people never get there. And if I can show what the game is like in the 80%, right? The top 10 to 20% of the content in the player base, they all go up here and that's where they live. Well, what's the lower 80% feel like? What's it feel like? I think that more people are going to start living, the majority of the player base even, they're going to be living in the lower 80%. Why? It's enjoyable. It's super fun. To think that the lion's share of an MMO just tips over into the end game and the most of the players logging in, or that's all they're doing. I just think that's so easy to just dissolve as an idea. Just go play the game and run around and see what people are doing right now in New World. We're 3 months in. Just see what they're doing. Watch what they're doing. They're getting presents. They're doing the winter event. They're doing quests, they're chopping down trees, they're doing all this different stuff. They're not all living in endgame elite chest farms and expeditions. That's not happening. We literally went into an area that was high level, and I'm sure there was elite enemies nearby and elite chests nearby, and nothing. There wasn't a single soul around. So I don't think so. I think lots of players, when they jump into MMORPGs, I think they like to live in the lower end. That doesn't mean that the upper end isn't valuable and fun and enjoyable. That doesn't mean that I don't have my sights set on doing that someday, like hitting 60 and checking out these other dungeons. But when the leveling fell off the rails for me, I was like, okay, I'm not bothered with this. I get more than anybody, most of you combined, and all I care about is going to work and playing games. I do nothing else. So whoever said that needs to reevaluate their lives, because they're probably projecting. I get more than probably most of you combined. What do you mean, you game more? And all I care about is going to work and playing games? I'm not sure what you're saying, Distorted. My cousin is 35 years old, does nothing but play WoW, and his mom pays the bills. He's never had a girlfriend. Yeah, but you're not necessarily... Again, I think that's a juvenile way to measure a person's standing in the world, right? Plenty of people don't go through life and don't have this sort of Rolodex of girlfriends and boyfriends behind them, and they're perfectly good people and they're perfectly healthy. They just decided it wasn't part of their priority, right? I was talking to somebody recently, and there was some guy having like an absolute breakout, season in some sport or something, and he said that his dad told him he was in college, I think. Yeah, he was playing college ball and he was just doing amazing, and his dad told him, don't get a girlfriend until after college. Why? Because it's a giant distraction, right? You got your eyes on the prize right now. Grades, ball, beating your body into a machine, right? This is the time to do that. There's a season for that later. There's a person for you out on the horizon. There's nothing wrong with not having a girlfriend. Now, so if we strip that away from your criticism of him, And we look at like, well, he does nothing but play WoW and his mom pays the bills. Well, okay, he's extended, he's living in extended adolescence, and it's arrested development, right? He hasn't developed beyond a 16-year-old boy who wants his hot pocket heated up so he doesn't have to look away from the monitor, and his mom is paying all of his bills, right? He's not flourishing as a person. It has nothing to do with the lack of a girlfriend or the fact that he's never had one. He's not flourishing as a person because he hasn't developed beyond the juvenile behavior and the lack of responsibility sort of spectrum that like a 15-year-old lands in, right? So you have to be careful. Like, this is like a thing, right? Is like, well, we're gonna tell a guy that we're gonna cut a guy down and call him an incel and act as if not having a girlfriend or not having sexual experiences is like somehow a measure of who he is as a person. And I just think that that's ironically incredibly juvenile in itself. Like, attempting to accuse a man of being sort of stunted in his development and he's juvenile and immature, and yet you're judging him in a juvenile way, right? Well, you've never had a girlfriend, or you're an incel, you're a virgin, whatever. That's ironically juvenile. There's other ways to talk about it. Say, listen, you're not flourishing as a person. You know, you're 35 and you're living as a 15-year-old. This isn't a way to live. This isn't a way to conduct yourself. What are you doing? Well, you don't have any responsibilities. What are you contributing to the world, right? So, I just have been seeing that a lot lately. It's like, well, you know, we measure men as if that's still a measurement of like, well, you know, how many notches are in your belt? You know, how many conquests did you have? How many girlfriends did you have? That's not a measure of a man at all. If anything, I might be more interested in the guy with the self-control. Like, how did you get through ages 13 to 20 and not mess yourself up with a bunch of stupid, dumb relationships? How'd you do that? I'm more interested in the guy that gets to 20-something and managed to not do that. Because the rest of us, we didn't do that. And we probably wished we would have, because some of our deepest scars and biggest regrets are attached to some girl that we don't even know where she is anymore in high school, right? You carry it with you. You carry that shame and embarrassment and regret into your adulthood. I'm more interested in the guy that managed not to do that. What cloth are you cut from? How'd you do that? Because, buddy, that was a giant distraction for me in high school. That was a giant distraction for me in high school. Hearing a bit of Peterson, oh, buddy, he's in my veins now. I can't get it out. I see so many things differently now. Barrier, when I start saying, and that's not good, at the end of a sentence, you'll know I've fully transformed. What are you doing? You're sitting in your mom's basement, just playing World of Warcraft, and that's not good. I've not fully transformed, all right? I don't sound Canadian, but I definitely see things through that lens of like, why would you think that's victorious? Like, I got to 21 and I had like 10 girlfriends. Well, who the frick cares? What did it do for your life? Other than maybe give you a rash. Like, come on. I'm 22-year-old and I never had a girlfriend, but this year I just bought my first house and my first truck, and I'm not an actual... See what I'm talking about? Flex on him, Bobby. Flex on him. That's a valiant and worthy flex. This guy's like, I never had a girlfriend. I got a house and a truck. What do you got? A rash and regret. We're getting too serious. We're only in the first 45 minutes. You guys, we can't do this, right? You got to read his book. I got it on Audible. I got an Audible subscription for Christmas and a bunch of gift cards to get books. So I got that one lined up. Once I'm done with his series, his biblical series is ridiculously great. He is very funny. But yeah, that's next on the docket. I got him on Audible. 35-year-old cousin needs to get a job and his mom needs to stop enabling. Right. Like that's more of the measure. That's more the way of looking at it. If you're tuning in, you're getting life lessons. And you're also getting appropriate ways to criticize and analyze a person's, like, you know, where they are in life. We're talking about New World mass reporting ban exploit, seemingly still in the game, not necessarily seeing any response from Amazon Games on this. And yes, You're projecting that one side's better than the other, though? I'm not projecting. I could make a pretty concrete argument from, I think, basic psychology and human development that much of what people do in their teenage years in relationships is incredibly destructive and prone to nastiness. It's very easy to be like, no, that's not good for you when you're 15 to 20, let's say, 13 to 20. You got that's we're not going down that road, but it would be actually very easy to make that case, actually, given everything we know about development and psychology. Sure. Christmas period streams get so feisty. Lots of people frustrated because they're out of their normal routine and just letting it rip in chat. Valiant, I'm telling you. Why are you talking about me without talking about me? I need my daily routine back. I haven't had my daily routine consistently for a while, and buddy, it makes me grumpy. If you don't think you're if you don't think you're selfish, and you don't think you're a little if you think you've gotten far in your battle against being selfish and impatient, well, just either have some kids or have people stay with you for a while. You're like, I still got work to do. I'm still a selfish monster. I'm still a selfish monster, and I got work to do. You inconvenience me a little bit. I'm like, okay, you inconvenience me for a week, and then I'm raging underneath. I'm raging underneath. I was over Christmas by Boxing Day. Let me back to my routine. That's what I'm saying. Let me do my thing. I want to do my thing. I've got my things that I like to do. What about gold selling ads? After the merge, I've seen a couple in global and help chat. Just Izuka, if you see people advertising the selling of gold, you can report those people because that is actually against the terms of service of New World. There's lots of New World gold exploits in the game where they're duping or they're just creating characters. There was, during the New World winter event, which it's still going on, there were people creating extra characters and grabbing the package from the tree, getting the gold, and then dumping it on some other character, and they were doing this over and over. So they have now limited how many new characters you can make in a day, and you have to be like level 14 and up to get the gold. And they had to do this because the people that are doing that, they're advertising the selling of gold in your global chat. That's what they're doing. They're finding some type of New World exploit to get the gold and to then try to sell it to you. That is completely against terms of service. I've gotten emailed like probably once a week from some dumb company that's like, we would like to advertise our website where we sell gold on your videos. I'm like, do you think I'm stupid? Unless you're going to pay me $1 million, I'm not detonating my channel advertising something that's against the terms of service of the game I'm covering. What in the frick are you talking about? Our server is pretty good at mass reporting gold sellers. Rarely see them in chat. Yeah, if you just get people to jump on them, you're totally within your right, by the way. This isn't like brigading or targeting. You're totally within your right to draw attention to that and say, hey guys, we got somebody advertising gold selling in global. There's nothing wrong with bringing that to people's attention and then reporting that account. They're breaking the rules. There's nothing wrong with that at all, If you saw a guy stealing, shoplifting, you said, hey, everybody, this guy over here is shoplifting. You're not targeting or harming that person. You're drawing attention to a crime. Lono's a simple man. He wants his Downton Abbey, his finger foods, and his damage mitigation. That's exactly right. I'm a man of simple tastes. I like gunpowder and gasoline. And I like Downton Abbey in the evening with my wife. That's true. And I like finishing other shows that we're currently working on as well. I wonder how long it will be before they start to sell gold in-game. WoW tried for years to fight the gold farmers, and they ended up giving up and pushing them out of the market with their own service. Ironically, that is where the mass reporting thing works perfectly. Right, that's where you're supposed to do it. Some dummy in the chat trying to sell gold, right? You forgot the content loop. That's right. I worship... In gaming, I'm not being blasphemous here. In the realm of gaming, I worship the almighty God of the content loop because the content loop is God. That is in any game. Everything should be subservient to it, and if you're not subservient to it, it'll punish you. You will be smited and judged if your game design does not form itself around and is subservient to the content loop. If you're new this morning and you haven't hit subscribe yet, feel free to do that. We're always in here talking about different games, New World being one of those games, and we always love to hear from new folks. We have a Discord server if you're looking for people to play with as well. Be sure to hit subscribe. That way you don't miss my shows throughout the week. Give me a smash on that like button. Let's get our 200 likes for the day. Hit that milestone. Zuka says, I've seen tons of unfaction characters farming what we need for our crafting, and we end up having to buy what we need, and it becomes too much. I've reported a few gold sellers already. Selling gold sellers is fine. Selling somebody without a faction who's farming a node, I don't know. If they're a bot, it's pretty obvious, but reporting somebody just because they're not faction and they're farming, that's risky. We could have lots of Christmas noobs in the game that have no idea that they're supposed to join a faction. Maybe they missed that memo. I had one girlfriend in high school, and then I met my wife. We've been together for 20 years and married since 2009. 39 now and retired just before the Sickie came out. Been a gamer since I was 6. Yeah, you can balance it all, right? I worship at the altar of microtransactions. Yeah, we have an apostate in the chat. We have an apostate in the chat. You worship at the altar of the microtransactions. Yeah, that's a false god. Let's see what people are saying here. Make sure and take the poll at the top of the chat. A little over 300 votes now. Do you think mass reporting in New World still works as an exploit? 77% of the audience is saying yes, we think so. We're almost done with the first hour of the poll, so get those votes in if you haven't done so yet. Welcome in this morning. Thank you for being here. Here on SNTR Gaming, we cover gaming news all throughout the week. Yesterday, we covered Ashes of Creation and Final Fantasy 16. Today, it's New World and Horizon Forbidden West. Reported sellers, not the unfaction characters, just to clarify. Oh, no, I got what you were saying. It was clear that you were saying that, yeah, I'm not, excuse me. It was clear. You were saying you reported the unfactioned characters. I'm sorry. Golly jeez. That you were not reporting the unfactioned characters. There's too many negatives in that sentence. Did you say retired at 39? 39 now and retired just before. Yeah, how'd you retire at 39? My gosh. Share some of that independent wealth. Goodness gracious. I was looking to get into New World, but now I'm very tempted with these kinds of reports. Well, Jacob, let me explain something. New World gameplay is solid and super enjoyable. You can play this game level 1 to probably 40 and get easily over 100 hours out of the game and have a wonderful time, okay? You can have a wonderful time in this game. You do not have to deal with the things that we're talking about. Now, I say all that, but I'm also going to say this. If you're PvP minded and you're looking forward to the wars and the territory control and the end game, then yeah, the game is a little rough around the edges. You be fair warned about those things. All right? I don't think that this game will be a polished total package for PvP, wars, end game, and all of that. Probably not until close to the fall of 2022. Now, I don't say that to act like they have such a long way to go, the game is in a shambles. These things just take time. They just take time. If you look at how long it took to get Diablo 3 right, Final Fantasy 14 right, Star Wars The Old Republic, these games have all, over time, it's been tough to get them right. I see similar things with New World. Some people see, with the RNG system and inflation on big servers, a lot of people can only keep up with the gear grind by RMT. I meant some people see RMT as the only way to keep up. What is RMT? What is that? What does that stand for? You typed it twice. I don't think I've ever seen that with respect to this game. The only God I believe in is the little G Murph Dog. Goodness gracious. The only God I believe in is the content loop. No, that's not true though. That's not true. Oh, real money trading. Thank you. We're going to get a real money trading raid in the chat. Thank you, everybody, for typing that. Okay. some people see real money trading as the only way to keep up. Oh goodness. Let me think through this with you here, because I appreciate what you're saying, Yuki. So Yuki is essentially saying that people fall so far behind that they feel this is their only choice and their only option. I would say this. I had to make a bunch of branches before I started walking. First branch I'm going to walk on. The alternative would be that the game does it, and then people would call that sinister and predatory, and they would accuse the game of doing what I call the art of the squeeze, making it really hard for people at certain echelons to progress, and then you are essentially tempted to part with your money. So that's one branch where this could go, and that would not be good or ideal, because then people would say this is disruptive to the base level, experience. Early game and mid game is supposed to be really enjoyable, even if you're playing very casually. As you're saying, you are falling behind. So that's one branch. Another branch is, well, the challenge here is you're justifying breaking the rules simply because you can't play that much, right? There could be a world where I apply your logic to cheating in PvP. I don't have time to get very good at this game. The only way I can catch up in skill and participate and compete is to cheat and to use wall hacks or aimbots or whatever. So that's another branch we could go down. Another branch we could go down is just the idea of, well, maybe this isn't your game then. If you have to do things external to the game experience, whether it's cheat, hack, exploit, or real money trade, maybe the game is communicating to you that you're not meant to play it, right? I'm going to give you an example. Dominus with 2 months at a tier 2, thank you. We members get a free member milestone for sending super chats. Amazing. Yeah, if you guys send super chats of any dollar amount, you get the prize of it showing up in chat. It's amazing. You guys should test that button out. Make sure it works. Let me give an example. Let's say that you had decided you really wanted to play Dark Souls 3, and you downloaded an easy mode mod that made it almost impossible for you to die, and the bosses were exceptionally easy, okay? I would say to you, you have not played Dark Souls 3. You have played some Candyland version of Dark Souls 3, and ultimately, since you had to go outside the game to pay for, acquire, or use something, third party and extra, just to enjoy the game wasn't made for you. You've ultimately wasted your time, and I'm not saying that to you specifically. I'm saying I do think you get to a point with games where the game communicates to you, either directly or indirectly, that this isn't a game for you. We have this discussion all the time with respect to From Software games. If you want an easy mode, if you want a story mode, this game isn't made for you. On the same token, if I buy Barbie's Dream House and as a video game, and I want New Game Plus, and I want brutally difficult systems and challenges, someone would say, well, this game's not made for you if that's what you're looking for, right? $20 from Chest Pain, just testing the button. Thank you, Chest Pain, for being willing to test that button out. I appreciate that. Thank you. That's very kind. If you go and you play like Floofy's Cat Adventure, and you're like, man, I want a hard, super challenging New Game Plus. People will be like, well, this game isn't made for you. What are you talking about? Right? 10 months from Ganks. I think this channel is going to flourish next year when new MMOs hit. No one covers MMOs like our Lord and Savior Lono. Well, I appreciate that. Settle down, though, with that kind of language, but I appreciate the 10 months. What about streamers that get help from chat? I think there are degrees of assistance, J-Stock. If you get stuck, or you can't find the door, or you don't know where to go, or in my case, I'm playing Sekiro and I'm like, I don't know where the frick to go. Can you guys tell me where to go? And they tell me where to go. I don't ask them how to beat the boss, or like, well, what's the boss going to do? I fight the bosses blind. I fight the bosses. I could go read guides, and I could know what's coming, and I don't. I don't do that, right? But, there's degrees of assistance. If you get stuck and can't find the last gold nugget in the puzzle and you finally break down and go to Google, that doesn't mean the game wasn't made for you. I was talking about the fundamentals of the game and an easy mode mod that would completely ruin the experience to a certain degree. It's like, you didn't play Dark Souls 3. You played Candyland with swords. Dominus with a $3 tip. If you come to New World and you're like, this New World gameplay or New World leveling, it's just too slow for me to enjoy. I'm going to go outside the game and do real money trading so I can progress in the game. Maybe the game isn't built for you. If the base level progression is so slow that you feel you need to do that, the game, I think, is indirectly communicating to you, this probably isn't the game for you. I'm not telling this person to go play something else, by the way. $20 from Low Life King says testing. 1, 2. Thank you. Detonator with a 5 spot. Can confirm my button is also working. Thank you. By the way, guys, that dollar button is how you celebrate your membership renewal. So thank you to the people that are doing that. English Oatcake coming in with 4 months. So this is how you announce your sub renewal. Did you hear about the deaf shepherd? He gathered his flock and herd. Oh my, shut up. I can't believe I read that. WoW is dying. It's all right to admit it. Well, I mean, yeah. A lot of big names have quit WoW lately, and talent has been leaving Blizz amid the controversy. Looking forward to a new crop of MMOs. Sure. Thanks for your take. Love the insight. Yuki, I just want you to know I'm not telling you to go play something else. I'm telling you, you have to analyze the fundamentals of a game, and if they're constantly grading against your life schedule and sentimentality, maybe the game just isn't for you. You're trying to force it, and it won't work. I'll give you some examples in a moment. Dredgen with 5 months. Welcome back. Woo! 4 months from Valiant. Oh, yeah, so it is. There you go. No worries, I got 700 hours in New World and 260s. Oh, so you were arguing from the perspective. Okay, good. I'll give you an example of when I knew a game was just grading against my sentimentality, okay? Salt and Sanctuary is a perfect example. Salt and Sanctuary, I beat the first boss. I found it exhilarating. It took me 20 tries or something. I really liked the combat. I thought the game looked good. I thought this is going to be a really fun game. Whatever. Then the non-linear nature of the game just spit in my eye and slapped me across the face. 4 months from Detonator. Member button's working. Thank you. 5 months from Christopher Wright. Thank you. 4 months from LOL Poopsack 23. And it's a tier 2. What? I wish YouTube would announce this future. I'm supposed to talk about it. I just haven't drawn attention to it. 10 months from Bin at a tier 2. Ratchet & Clank was robbed of Game of the Year. Well, I think Returnal was the Game of the Year, but whatever. Everybody's doing it now. 2 months from D-Tom. 2 months. Got to pump these numbers up. 3 months from Egnarts. If you guys want to join in and be a member, you can click the join button. It gets you a little joystick badge. It gets you emotes. It does support me directly. We're pushing ourselves to 500 members. We're in the low 400s right now. A $5 tip from Barrier. People go into From Software games wanting the easy mode, and that's not good. People go into From Software games wanting an easy mode, and that's not good. Well, why would you do that? He usually says, why the hell would you do that, or whatever. 3 months from Gabby. I'm not in the New World Company, but here you can take my money from me. Well, get in the New World Company if you're on our server. 8 months from Baker. I will never not laugh when you say Poopsack's name. Yeah, it's a joy. One of the earlier followers in my community on Purple, his name was Poop Chunk, and it was like, what a name to have to say regularly. What a name. What's happening with YouTube? I don't know what you mean. They're adding features, if that's what you mean. Vengeance with a $20 tip. Did this work? I so remember the best day to eat French fries is on Friday. Oh, golly. This is terrible. Oh, you're not in our server. Okay. A $5 spot from D Dizzle says, button seems legit. Thank you. You guys don't have to do that anymore. Cardoc coming in with 12 months says triple dip crowd. You might be one of the first people. I've not seen the green badge yet. Your joystick's supposed to look green like the main logo when you hit a year. So, a 20 spot from Freddie Jackson, $20 tip from Freddie. Thank you so much, Freddie. I appreciate it. I had to reload the stream. It froze up. Oh, really? Yeah, we definitely dipped a little bit in viewership. Maybe the super chats did it. I don't know. They need to fix that if that's the case. Like, we don't want super chats freezing the stream. It wasn't on my end. Let me make sure we're not like having an issue. No, it's not on my end. It must have been just YouTube acting funky. There's something going on with YouTube. Oh, pick a side. I'll give you my very brief thoughts on YouTube pick a side. I think Mama Max has in very good showmanship misrepresented a lot of things. They didn't take his video down out of an act of maliciousness or trying to hide something. They took it down and they said, hey, this spot needs to be edited out. And instead of editing it out and re-uploading, he goes on a tirade like a month later. I think people are getting half of a story there. I am not a YouTube apologist, but I certainly don't think that you've gotten the full story if you watch his video. YouTube responded to somebody about it on Twitter, so I retweeted and I said, I feel like we've been getting half the story here, 4 months from Radical. Oh, look, this can be done. Here's my daily. A 5 spot from Ashen. Shut up and take my money, though not too much. Weddings are expensive. Yo, Ashen, save those pennies for your wedding. A 14 spot from Craig says tip time. Thank you very much. If you guys had to refresh on YouTube, I apologize. That had nothing to do with me. YouTube must have been, having an issue. They've been pushing out updates for live streaming, and it's affecting us every once in a while. We are excited about those updates, and hopefully they don't ruffle the feathers of the live experience every day too much. Spirit Gaming says, I don't know how much you've talked about it already, but yes, mass report is still a thing. There is a 400-man company, 4 companies with one name, and they report you for anything, even if you say GG after fighting. So, Spirit Gaming, we have been talking about the New World mass reporting, ban exploit. We have been talking about it. There was a Reddit post that got some traction and a clip of a streamer that was basically partaking in the planning of this, and Game Rant picked it up. And so we are we're covering that today, and the poll at the top of the chat is asking a very simple question. Do you think mass reporting in New World is still working as an exploit? We have let's get 500 votes on that poll. If you haven't voted on the poll, it's right at the top of the chat. Cast your vote there. You don't even have to be a player. You can just be like, yeah, I still think it's going on, because they haven't necessarily said that they put a stop to it. They just said, well, that's not how a reporting system works. I felt left out. My renewal isn't until later this week. Well, you can be special then later, Christina. A 5 spot from Dan Zatasik. Have you ever thought about being a guest on Timcast IRL? I don't know what that is or how I would be a guest on Timcast IRL. I think they changed it to where you can just do it now. Saw the option under the Super Chat button. Yeah, it's under the Super Chat $. Your renewal will live on in our minds and hearts till next week, or at least after you're on your own. That's right. So if you're new and you've just tuned in, we cover lots of different games on this channel, so thank you to all the people that have hit subscribe this morning. We greatly appreciate it. If you're a fan of New World, we cover New World regularly, and we really, really enjoy just how much we've seen people respond. We are screaming towards 10,000 subs. That's going to be a heck of a milestone for the new year if we can hit that before January. I've just seen something about YouTube pick-a-side videos showing up. Don't know what it's about. I'll give you a too long didn't read super, but I'm going to avoid language that we don't want to use we don't want to get flagged as far as not being advertiser friendly. So a YouTuber by the name of Mama Max made a video exposing somebody that was found doing something really, really bad, okay? Really, really bad, and it pertains to people that are not yet 18 years old, okay? If you're understanding what I'm saying, okay? So this person was doing something very bad with respect to people who are not yet of the age of 18. Now, Mama Max makes the video exposing how he found this ring of people doing bad stuff and the username and all this stuff. So it puts together this whole video, and it gets to 400,000 views. YouTube takes the video down because there was a representation in the video using video game characters of something not nice. And they said, listen, even if it's pretend or if it's represented with video game characters, we don't want that in the content. And they let him know that, and they gave him the time slot in the video that it pertained to, and he got really mad, and then made a video a month later, and he called on all these other YouTubers to, call out YouTube and pick a side and blah, blah, blah. And a lot of the investigative YouTubers are in his video saying that it's really bad, and YouTube lets the big news outlets get away with it and not us. I have a few very quick thoughts. First and foremost, you're not entitled to advertising at all. You're not. So if an advertising company or a company that sells advertising and they buy those spots on YouTube and they say, hey, we don't want to land on videos that are like this, they're well within their right to do that. And you take that risk when you cover sensitive subjects, okay? You're not entitled to advertisement. You aren't. You didn't build this platform, and you're not the one footing the advertising bill, so no one owes you advertising dollars. Now, I'm sure they would push back and say, well, the big news outlets cover these things, and they still have advertising on their channels. Yes, you're right, and they are well-established giant news organizations that likely have contracts with YouTube, as well as the fact that that's not everything that they cover. They might be covering the Kentucky Derby. They might be covering like celebrity gossip. And yes, they may cover a very sensitive subject. But that doesn't mean that the advertisers don't want to consistently land on a channel like that, because that channel covers a whole host of things. If you make your channel and you center your channel around being investigative into really nasty stuff, you're probably not going to get a lot of advertising. That's just the facts, Jack. Like, you're not owed advertising. You're not owed advertising dollars. You're not even owed a platform on YouTube. You're not owed that. YouTube could establish tomorrow that they don't want investigative channels because they think it promotes vigilante justice and it runs the risk of like doxing and all these other bad things. They could decide that tomorrow because it's their platform. They could decide tomorrow that they don't want channels about horses. It's their platform. Like, this isn't a matter of freedom of the press. This isn't a matter of freedom of speech. You're on their platform and advertisers are paying to have their ads show up on videos. And if they're like, listen, Johnny Handcam, who's investigating and trying to expose nasty people, I don't want my money spent showing up on a video like that. Well, CNN covered it. Yeah, it's CNN. Like, they're an established news organization. I'm not saying that you should watch them or trust them. I'm simply saying, in the relationship, you're not some established, trusted, long-standing news organization. You're just some dude with the GoPro and an agenda. So, that entire situation, they're trying to make it seem as though like YouTube's trying to cover it up and protect bad people, and it's like, that's not what's happening. Alarian with 2 months. Hey, Mike, check this thing on. Shout out to the Engage 2021 crew. Proposed last weekend and tricked her into saying yes. Well, congrats on the engagement, Alarian. That's big, man. Good for you. So that's my quick thoughts on that situation, is that YouTube has every right to be like, we don't really like that kind of content. The fact that they let you create that content on this platform is surprising. So count your blessings that you can even have a career shoving GoPros in people's faces and baiting and catfishing to expose bad dudes. Like, you're lucky they even let your channel exist, because honestly, it's really risky to let your channel exist. 7 months from Steven. Just finished Frickmas, drinking the light roast now, saving the dark roast for the last. Happy holidays. Thank you, Steven. I understand what you're saying about YouTube being a private company and all, but I don't think that they should have the right to banish non-criminal content from the platform. I'm not, but they do have the right to do that, is the point. They do. If you made a platform tomorrow and you bought server space and you paid for algorithmic discovery with the engine of the platform so people could upload videos and find those videos, and you called it Pixelot Games, pixelotvideos.com, and you spent all that money, and somebody uploaded a video talking about stuff that you didn't want them to talk about, well, you'd have every right to be like, well, this is my platform. Bloop, I don't want that here. It's your platform. Zubair with 11 months, and it's a tier 2. I also want to participate. Thank you, sir. Lono, I hear you, but wouldn't controlling content like that violate their Section 230 protection? I think that's the applicable law. I don't know what you're referring to. It's their platform. They're allowed to say, we don't want that here. They're also allowed to say, listen, the advertisers don't want to show up if you're talking about X, Y, and Z. And when your entire dadgum channel is about X, Y, and Z, you should expect to not make a lot of advertising dollars. Shout out to the Engage crew, says Captain Toasty Buns. Finally proposed after almost 10 years, and she said yes. Yo, congrats, Toasty. 2 months. That's right, it's December. A lot of engagements. If you're just tuning in, we're taking a slight break from talking about the New World mass reporting ban exploit to talk about the situation with, like, YouTube whether or not they have the right to like shut down a video or a channel. I don't think YouTube does have that right unless they gave up their Section 230 protection. You just restated the same thing. I don't know what that is. You gotta elaborate. Section 230 means that the platform isn't liable for what the users post, simply put. Right, so they're not liable, meaning that they're not a publisher. They don't want to be classified as a publisher. Neither does Twitter, for God's sakes. They don't want to be, for a reason, right? Took us 8 years to get engaged. Thought I was going to have to find a side piece. Rad, you. I swear we were separated. We were separated at birth. We're both short. We both are. I'll stop there. The thing with YouTube is it's a business, and if you post, and if you are in any way an employee of YouTube, they can ban you for doing things at work that they don't approve of. Them not being a publisher, them not being liable for what's on the platform, doesn't mean they can't say we have terms and conditions. So I'll give you an example, Brutal. They have terms and conditions of what you can't put on their platform, and if you do it anyway, they have a right to delete the video. Film yourself doing, film yourself or others doing adult content and try and put it on YouTube. They have every right to delete that. Why? Because they say not to do it. It's in their terms of service. You can't put X-rated content on a platform. Now, if it's yoga and it's instructional, whatever the world that they need to just absolutely shut that down. But whatever. But that's the rules, and they're allowed to have those rules. That has nothing to do with not being a publisher or not being liable for what's posted. They're allowed to say, "Hey, you can't post that content here. I'm going to anyway." Okay, well, we're going to take the video down. Well, now you're not protected by item 230 or whatever. What? What are you talking about? Section 230, thank you, Barrier. Section 230 is a section of Title 47 of the United States Code enacted as part of the United States Communication Decency Act that generally provides immunity for website platforms with respect to third-party content. Right. So if some guy makes a post on Twitter and he encourages people to go, burn somebody's house down, and the post is up for 5 hours before it gets taken down, and people go and they do it, right? You can't say, well, Twitter's liable. No, the guy that posted it is, right? They took it down. They didn't take it down expediently, but they took it down, right? You're the man I'd totally be if I was a man. That's what I was saying. It was very platonic. Like, Radical and I are very similar. I wasn't saying it. It was like I was separated at birth, as in we're twins, right? We're fraternal twins in many respects. Not that people wouldn't find that interesting. Like, wait, how'd that happen? Like, that would be a heck of a documentary. That's a sick shirt. Thank you. Also, I just want to clarify. I think some people are missing what actually happened. A video got demonetized. Therefore, the leaps in logic are made that since I can't make money, YouTube likes... but no, Alarian, I thought they took the video down. The video's gone. They didn't just demonetize the video. They took it down. A lot of the people in his video said, yeah, my stuff got demonetized. And it's like, well, of course, because you're making sensitive content. I'm trying to highlight that there is a huge gray area. I'm completely with you with them having the ability to have those rules. Thanks for others explaining 230. A $5 tip from Blueberry Puffin. Just the tip. Oh, boy. Sean with the 10 spot. 230 only protects them from liability in case something objectionable gets by them. It doesn't mean that they can't police their own platform. It's not a freedom of speech regulation. It's a protection. Right. I don't think they lose that protection just because they moderate their own platform. Those things are not mutually exclusive. You can be protected from liability because some dum-dum puts up a video and convinces teenagers to drink bleach or something, and then that idiot gets his channel taken down. But they're not liable for anybody hurt in the time that the video was up. When people set someone else's house on fire, then it's a crime very clearly. What I mean is, I'm afraid YouTube might not let part of people express themselves because they don't like the content. Yeah, and they're allowed to do that. I hate to shatter this illusion for people. Listen, this is what's going on. Let me tell you what's going on. I'll tell you what's going on. This gets so thick and so heavy and so difficult. So if you tuned in for New World Mass Reporting news, we're going off the rails a little bit here. Welcome. I cover New World. I cover lots of MMOs, but bear with me. We have integrated with Twitter and YouTube to such a degree, especially as Americans, that we think our rights reign and apply to these environments, and they don't. They don't. That's the problem. Perfect Paradox with 2 months, thank you. Your interaction with Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all these platforms is so heavily integrated into your worldview, schema, and daily life that you come at it with your rights and entitlements as an American citizen. And that doesn't simply work. It doesn't work. It's not true. You don't have freedom of speech on Twitter and on Facebook and on YouTube. You don't. You surrender those rights when you agree to their terms and conditions, when you create your profile. It's all theirs for the most part. They don't own your intellectual property. That's not necessarily true, but it's still the profile exists on their platform, and they can go like this. Don't like that, and gone you are. You know, the other day we were talking about what countries are notorious for. This is an America thing, freedom of speech and a heightened sense of rights. Right. Give an example. You give good examples with stuff like this. I'll give an example. People will immediately invoke free speech into these discussions, and it simply doesn't apply. It doesn't apply. If you get your tweet taken down, blocked, banned from a chat, if you get your video taken down, whatever happens on these platforms, whether it's moderated by the platform themselves or moderated by the streamer or the content creator, you are not having your rights or freedoms infringed upon. That is false. And Americans, especially, have so heavily integrated their daily life with technology that they feel their rights are also then integrated into those platforms. And it isn't true. It's crummy either way. Yes, they have a right to do it, but it doesn't mean that they should. Just because they can do something doesn't mean that it's right. It's a thin line. I would have to see a concrete case made, Dauntless, that they have done this in an unethical or immoral way. Right? Is it unethical? Is it immoral? Or are they simply saying, that stuff's too sensitive for our platform? We don't want investigative vigilante justice channels, so we're going to really come over your videos super careful. More than likely what happened with Mama Max's video is it was up for, a while, hit 400-some thousand views, and somebody probably reported it. It probably got a bunch of reports, and then a real human being got out their glasses, combed over the video, and said, yeah, you can't do that. That's out of line. You also have to think of something here. YouTube has a vested interest in keeping advertisers happy and warm and cozy. And one of the ways they do that is they act in these environments with expediency or severity. Because they had an adpocalypse a couple of years ago, then they had to restructure the entire site and entire channels according to COPPA, the Child Online Privacy Protection Act. This is serious stuff. And everybody wants to act like, well, YouTube is just trying to protect bad people. Do you ever think that you blowing the lid on some ring of bad people, do you ever think that maybe they don't want you to do that because they're cooperating with oversight committees and investigative committees that are trying to find these guys? Do you ever think that your thirst for justice and your dumb videos that you make might be disruptive to actual justice? Do you ever consider that? Do you ever consider that we have investigative ways to find these guys and take them to court and throw them in jail, and that you making a video isn't really helping? I don't care how careful you are. I don't care how meticulously you are. It's still mob justice. You're still taking something to the court of public opinion and trying to sway them to consider that someone is quote unquote guilty. And that's just, if it's your platform, you have every right to be like, we don't want that here. My gosh, look at what people use Twitter for. It could get close to home, but what do you think about how this applies to creators losing channels for not breaking TOS and others keeping your channels when they do break TOS? Yeah, that's unethical. That's unethical. Of course that hits close to home. I think if the XQC video goes live today about how they made XQC go through streamer therapy, I talk about that. The Purple platform operates in an unethical way. They do not enforce their TOS consistently. That's unethical. That's unethical business practice. That'd be no different than letting your cousin get away with murder at the company and firing a guy for being late one time. That would be considered nepotism and unethical business practice. It's no different at the Purple platform. Giving preferential treatment to XQC and other streamers and just ripping my life from me over nothing and not abiding by their own TOS. I cover that in today's video on SNTR Presents. Sure. So, you'd have to make a concrete case. Are there instances where YouTube has inconsistently just ripped somebody's channel from them in an unethical way? Because I know a lot of people use that one guy as an example. I forget his name. He would always hide his chin, and Keemstar and him went back and forth for a really long time. And then Keemstar had him on his channel, and then his channel was gone. Well, he kept dancing on the line. He kept dancing on the community guidelines line, and then he got hit. Wham, wham, wham. Now, I would say it was pretty unfair because I think they hit him all at once. Instead of hitting him once and saying, hey, stop it, it was like bam, bam, bam. They hit him like 3 times. Yeah, Leafy. I didn't look into that. I didn't investigate that. But it did seem like Leafy at one level deserved it because he kept dancing on the community guidelines. But then it also seemed like instead of giving him a chance to correct and hitting him with a warning or 1 strike, it was like they hit him with 3 strikes on top of each other, and then his channel was gone. I don't know. Outside of that, I haven't heard of this happening. YouTube has the right to filter what they want on their platform, give them free will to decide who is on the platform and who is not. It's sketchy and it's a thin line. Of course it's a sketchy and a thin line, but that's not what this was. Mama Max's channel is still up, which is evidence that they're not doing this, Dallas. Anxiety War still has a channel. Like, these guys have made extremely, I would consider these to be very, very risky videos and risky coverage, and they still have channels. Mama Max's video was taken down due to a section of the video that they could have edited out and re-uploaded, and they chose not to. They chose to go on the attack and turn it into this war against YouTube. They literally said, take out this section and your video is fine. Now, I think they were angry, and with a little pinch of butt hurt, you end up with a overreaction. Because they were like, I had 400,000 views on the video. Why'd you wait this long? Well, they're not watching everything you put up, buddy. You upload a video like every 6 months. So it got reported. A real live person went and looked at it. Do you understand what they would have complained about if the opposite would have happened? Think about how easy this is spun up. So they took down the video after enough reports came in and a real live person looked at the video. That's kind of how it should happen, unless it's a DMCA, which they have to take it down right away. If the reverse would have happened, if as soon as the video went up, it got taken down, they'd have cried the same foul. Oh yeah, you're just trying to censor and you're just trying to hide the truth. What do you mean? A real living human person looked at your video and said, if you take out this section, your video's fine. And he couldn't be bothered. So he goes to war, creates this whole false narrative of YouTube is protecting bad people. You honestly think there's some like overlord organization here that's like protecting really nasty guys that belong in jail? You think that's happening? Like, you're watching too many movies. YouTube changes the rules midstream so often, no creators really know where the goalposts are anymore. I don't agree with that. No, they send out emails. We know, we are well informed when community guidelines change. I think that's a false summary. I'm not a YouTube apologist. I think they have a lot of work to do, and I think they've made a lot of mistakes. But I'm well informed about community guidelines. How do you think I did a 9-part series naming people that did wrong? How do you think I did that? Because I knew what the guidelines were. How do you think all those videos didn't get into any trouble at all? Because we abided by the guidelines. You think I just stumbled my way through 9 episodes, naming folks and talking about misconduct and all kind of nonsense? You think I just stumbled my way through that blindly? I'm not really commenting on their vids, but the idea that YouTube and others can decide what they want on their platform, it gives them too much power, and they don't always wield it fairly. Well, I don't know what to say. With great power comes great responsibility. We could talk about, the size of many of the companies in America and how their size, their reach, and their profitability has allowed them to, mistreat and underpay their employees. Like, you see what I'm saying? Anything that reaches a certain size becomes potentially very, very dangerous because, you know what I mean? We could talk about this at every level. Of course it's dangerous. Of course. You created risky content and YouTube asked you to tweak it a little, and your response is to go full scorched earth towards the platform. Bold strategy, Cotton. Yeah. If we would have uploaded a video in the Say No to Rage story, and they would have been like, boom, can't do this. Why? You said this in this section, and this indicates blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. You know what I mean? Also, the fact that this person stated on Twitter how they hated that YouTube wouldn't take your channel down or take your videos. Yeah, because they were attempting to report him. They're like, he's not allowed to do this. Yes, I am. You deciding who let in your house gives you too much power. It's an interesting discussion, Sean. Think about it from this perspective. If I'm trying to argue for Dauntless's position, I'm going to give him a good argument because he's in YouTube chat and he's doing the best he can with the limited amount he's got. He's a sharp guy. I'm going to make his argument better, right? One could say that there is an impetus and maybe even an imperative on channels that reach, or platforms that reach, I should say, platforms that reach a certain size should start to operate as if they are public publishing entities due to the level with which the public can interact and communicate. You could maybe make like a philosophical legal argument that they have reached a point where they cannot be considered private and only answering to themselves. They need to fall under what would fall under, like, public spaces. I don't think you're going to get that argument very far, but I think you could try to make a really good argument that they have reached such a size and they have reached such a global reach that you can't claim, oh, we're just a private entity. What the frick? No, you can't claim that. No. Your power and your reach requires a very different way of moderating and managing the spaces. And they have fought tooth and nail, and so is Twitter, against being considered a publisher. Do you want to know why they've done that? I'll explain it to you. It would murder the efficiency of the platform. Do you know how impossible it would be to do that? You would have to do so many things. I wouldn't be able to live stream unless I was sort of like a contracted, I would have to basically be an employee. Because how else would you, or you'd have to have me sign a very stringent agreement that if breached, my channel would disappear, right? A very stringent agreement. Why? Because they'd have to treat me like a publisher. Well, if you're going to go out and say all these things, we need to know what you're going to say, what you're going to cover, and how you're going to cover it. And so I'd have to submit to some form of like, here's the general realm of how I'm going to operate as a broadcaster, and here are the things I'm going to talk about, and blah 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 blah. And if I break out of that, they could smack me down and be like, nope, you didn't. You broke the rules. You said you were going to be a gaming channel, and you started talking about religion, whatever. You did sign a form. Those forms would have to be a lot more stringent. They'd have to be a lot more specific and not so generic because they'd have to act as a publisher. If you're going to upload a video, guess what? You wouldn't be able to publish it until an actual person at YouTube watched it. Why? Because if they're operating as a publisher, they got to do that. This is why Twitter and YouTube have pushed back on this. It's like our platforms don't function as they were designed if you turn us into publishers. It doesn't work. If we're suddenly liable for what gets published, guess what? We got to see everything before it goes live. Or at the very least, have extremely stringent contracts with our live broadcasters. Because I could live broadcast and just start going off on some tirade. I could do it right now if I wanted. It wouldn't be a very good idea. It'd get reported and I'd get in trouble. So, that's why they fought back against it. Everything you love about YouTube and Twitter would soon get strangled if they suddenly had to operate as a publisher. They'd go out of business, period. Too much potential liability. Yeah. Too much liability. The insurance required, the contractual required, the oversight required, they wouldn't be able to function. YouTube as a site wouldn't be able to function if that happened. That's why it'll never happen. Google will always be able to be like, no, you can't turn our platform into a publisher. Can't do it. We're going to do everything we can to protect, children. We'll do everything we can to protect against criminal things being published. TikTok's moderators are suing the platform because they get subjected to such filth that they have to make sure it doesn't hit the public. They get subjected to just absolute filth, and they're suing the platform because they feel like they haven't been protected from it. They'll make AI to flag videos. They've already tried that. They do have AI oversight to a certain degree. Like if you upload a video and it's not your content, it gets snagged immediately. Like try and upload an episode of a TV show or a movie. You can't even publish it. It won't get past the initial checks. We've been flagged as not advertiser friendly, probably because I mentioned that YouTuber's name or I said that phrase. We've already been flagged as not advertiser friendly. I'll request a review. We should be fine. Yeah, they've already flagged this video. Probably because I use that YouTuber's name. I bet you if you use his name or talk about it in any capacity, that a bot automatically flags the video. So, if you're tuning in for New World mass reporting ban exploits, we can divert back to that. We don't need to spend the next hour and 20 minutes talking about this. That was fast. Yeah, they monitor what you talk about. That's why we avoid certain words, because it just isn't worth it. Like that's why we say the sickie, because it's like I'm not making content about the sickie. If I say the word, we potentially get flagged. It's super sensitive. Of course it is. Of course it is. So what happens is I'll explain to you. What happens is when a moment like this happens, and this guy makes his video and he says, whatever he says, like, decide on a position. He used another phrase, but we'll say decide on a position. So he makes his video and he gets everybody doing that. Well, what YouTube probably does is say, well, we need to be on guard about these types of videos because everybody's going to be uploading shorts and little vids and live streams talking about it, and advertisers are not going to want to land on this topic, right? Advertisers are not going to want to land on this topic. So it gets flagged as maybe not being advertiser friendly, and I say, okay, well, can you watch the video, please? And they do, and I always get cleared. All of our videos about the Say No to Rage story over on SNTR Presents, a lot of those AMA sessions got flagged because I used certain words, and we requested review, and we always got cleared every single time. Because I knew I was well within my right to use those words in the context that I did. I wasn't being descriptive or uncouth or nasty. And so we were totally fine in those scenarios. We were totally fine. So, again, if you're here for the New World mass reporting coverage, we can divert back to that. Be sure to take the poll at the top of the chat. An hour in with over 500 votes. You love to see it. That's a good poll. That's a good poll result. We appreciate that so much. Thank you guys for being here this morning and tuning in. We greatly appreciate it. We cover New World as well as many other games, and looking forward to covering Lost Ark, Elden Ring. We may be even jumping into like Star Citizen or Star Wars The Old Republic. Yesterday we covered Ashes of Creation in Final Fantasy 16. How does the Act define publisher? I don't know. We're not saying the Section 230 should be removed, but these platforms need to back off. They are clearly acting as a publisher at times, which is inappropriate. I don't think so. No. I don't agree with that. I've not seen proof of that. I've seen a lot of red-pilled theories that they're doing that. I've not seen concrete evidence of that. I haven't. I have not seen concrete evidence that they've been acting as a publisher and overstepping. I haven't seen any evidence of that. They've got rules. You dance on the line or you break the rules, and you run the risk of being demonetized or having the video taken down. That's all I've ever seen evidence for. Even in this situation, when I actually looked at it, I held off and didn't commentate. I was like, I'm not going to comment on this just yet. I want to see how this plays out. And surprise, surprise, there's always two sides to the story. And YouTube comes out and says, look, we let you know that there was like a 4-second section of the video that needed edited out. You just got mad because the video had 400,000 views, like 460 or something. The poll in chat is asking the question, do you think that the New World mass reporting exploit is still working? And 75% are saying yes. So be sure to cast your vote. Be sure to smash the like button. Thank you again for being here this morning. We're cruising our way to 300 likes for the day. We're cruising our way to 10,000 subs. If you haven't hit the sub button yet, feel free to do that. We'd appreciate that very, very much. If YouTube was prone to overstepping, Lono wouldn't have a channel right now. That's exactly right, Sean. You better believe. Listen, I'll be frank with you. You better believe if the people that worked with Purple to take me down, if they had pull over here, we wouldn't be sitting here right now. I'd be gone. I'd be working for one of my buddies in their businesses that they own or something. I wouldn't be here right now. They'd have been like, they'd have hit the detonate button. Thankfully, YouTube is run like a business and not a frat house, and so I retained all of my channels and saw no consequence for the rubbish that was spilled on Twitter. So Google and YouTube operate as a dadgum business, and that's why I tend to err on the side of siding with them. I do, because I'm like, this was an instance where you could have been like, they could have, and they didn't. They didn't, and I respect that big time. They were even interviewed about it, and they're like, yeah, we don't really take action against channels unless it can be corroborated with law enforcement and legal action. Like every single platform should do. That's a very easy out. That's a very good standard. Yeah, we don't take actions against a person's, income and way of life just because somebody typed something. We only do it if it can be corroborated with legal action and law enforcement. Oh, that sounds sensible, doesn't it? In an age of misinformation and lies and half-truths, that sounds like a really good, position to have. It would have been very easy. It just means they didn't overstep in this case. But that's what I mean. Give me examples. I only ever saw an example given in Leafy. Who did they overstep with? I've never seen evidence. And in this situation right now that everybody's ranting and raving about on Twitter and making their own videos and stuff, I've not seen any evidence that they overstepped. Not at all. Not at all. I mean, they faced it head on. They replied to somebody's tweet. They said, "We allow content with efforts to expose criminal activity, but it cannot include scenes where a minor is even if it's done even if it's staged and fake." Right? Even if it's staged and fake. We shared the violated segment and timestamps with the creator, and the video could be edited and re-uploaded. Like, they're facing it face forward. Their DMCA tends to overstep? No, it doesn't. Their DMCA is well within the lines of what the law dictates. If someone submits a legal document under penalty of perjury and says, this needs to be taken down, they simply must take the video down, and then they review it. That's exactly how that's supposed to happen. They're not overstepping. Somebody submits a legal document claiming some video's got their stuff in it. They have to act. It's the law. They're not like, well, we won't take this one serious. No, they must. Crowder has had tons of problems for political bias reasons. Yeah, and I feel like every time I've tried to go down that rabbit hole, it's just a bunch of red pill conspiracy theorists. I don't find any evidence that that's true. I don't. Guys push the envelope, they dance on the line, they get demonetized, or they claim they're shadow banned, and it's just a bunch of hooey. It's not true. I've not found any compelling evidence that is true. I haven't. Do you want to know why I know that's not true? Do you want to know one of the fastest growing podcasts, one of the fastest growing content creators in the world is? I saw a report. You know who it is? I'll give you a couple of guesses. Who do you think it is? Who? Actually, there's two. Who do you think it is? And how much has YouTube tried to squelch and silence them? I'll give you a couple guesses. Which is all proof I need that they don't do what people claim that they're doing. They don't do it. They don't. Rogan's one. Rogan's one of the fastest growing podcasts and presences. I don't feel like does he have stuff on YouTube? He's not the example I was going to give. Shapiro. That's exactly right. Shapiro's exploding everywhere. You think YouTube gives a frick? No. They like the advertising dollars. They don't give a crap. Like, come on. Who are you kidding? If they were shutting down channels because of their political biases, then Shapiro wouldn't be one of the fastest growing content creators. He wouldn't. They had to squelch him, shadow ban him, he'd be gone. He wouldn't be able to create videos. But there he sits as one of the lead growing podcasts in the world, alongside Rogan. You're kidding yourself if you think YouTube's like, well, that video was a little right-leaning, so we're going to actually sequester that. No, they like advertising dollars, and Shapiro generates advertising dollars. That's what I'm saying. Like, I've never seen any credible argumentation about this. It's always one guy and some video and something got this and da-da-da. And just like in this scenario, we get half the story. The guy put something in his video that was on the line. YouTube says, hey, this section needs to come out. And he blows it up and misrepresents it and says, well, YouTube's trying to protect bad people. Rogan doesn't post full vids on YouTube anymore, just clips. Well, part of that could be his agreement with Spotify. I don't know. I wasn't meaning to use Rogan as an example, but he is an example of somebody who clearly is not being, like, shadow banned because of his leanings. Shapiro has his own network outside of YouTube. Go look at his channel and tell me he's not flourishing on the platform. Go look at his channel. That's what I'm saying. You're buying into conspiracy theory. Is it just YouTube? Yeah, the guy just on Tuesday got 2.1 million views on his channel. Every other day, he's getting 10,000 more subs. He just passed a 4 million sub milestone. And you think YouTube sequesters and hides videos according to political leanings. And yet, here Shapiro sits banking 1 to 2 million views a day. What are you talking about? They don't care about what you think they care about. You're buying into guys that have videos smacked down or demonetized because they dance on the line. And then they act like YouTube's out to get them, and YouTube has a bias, and it's like, well, then Shapiro should be floundering instead of flourishing. I don't like Shapiro. I don't consume his content. I don't dislike him, but I'm not particularly fond of the guy. I think he makes good points. I think he makes bad points. I don't actually consume much of his content. But the guy's bagging at 1 to 2 million views a day and just passed 4 million subs. How do you do that if political bias gets you blocked or sequestered, or you have problems because of political leanings? No, I don't buy it at all. So Crowder is claiming we were striked and off of YouTube, but can still watch the full show live. Right. I would need to know I would need to know the reasons why they were striked. I would need to know the reason why they got in trouble. Because as is very similar to what we started talking about today, the guy that uploaded his video and got really mad and he got everybody to say pick a side or whatever, you got half the story. And when the rest of the story comes out, it's like, well, you dummy, you got a lot of views, sure, but then a real person watched the video and said this part needs taken out. But he doesn't tell you that. He makes them look like the devil. I wouldn't be surprised if Crowder's doing the same thing. I don't like him or dislike him. I don't consume his content, so I don't have a dog in the fight. But I wouldn't be surprised if Crowder's giving you half the story. Wouldn't shock me in the least. And I'm not like a YouTube apologist, but there's always two sides to the story when these sorts of things happen. And I'm telling you right now, some of these channels, like I said, like Shapiro, there's no way he'd be flourishing. Well, Rumble it is. See you at 10 a.m. Hate speech. Your content violated this policy. This because he's too based. Louder. Yeah, but I would need to know. Unfortunately, we think it violates this. We've removed the following content from YouTube. We know it might be disappointing, but it's important that YouTube is a safe place for all. If content breaks the rules, we remove it. If you think we've made a mistake, you can appeal and we'll take another look. Keep reading for more details. Yeah, where's the rest of the details? Where's the details? Was there a timestamp? Did he appeal it? Did they respond? No, he's showing you the very beginning of the email, which is copy and paste. So where's the rest of the email? And did he appeal it? And if he appealed it, what did they say? We don't give him the benefit of the doubt? No, I don't give content creators the benefit of the doubt when we just found an instance of a content creator giving us half the story. The guy that uploaded his video, Mama Max, he gave us half the story. He misrepresented what happened, making it look like YouTube's protecting bad people. And that wasn't true. That wasn't true. The truth came out. They said there's a section of your video that contains something that is wrong. And instead of removing it, they got all angry and appealed it and were like, you get gratified by looking at this? It's like, no, you are representing something criminal with video game characters, and that falls into the category of we don't want this on the platform. Yo, what's good, Hilly? Thank you. Can we decide if they only care about money or if they only care about politics? I'm getting confused. Exactly what I'm saying. There is absolutely no way that YouTube is out there striking down Crowder because of his political leanings, but they're just letting Shapiro skyrocket and all these other guys skyrocket. No. There was more than likely something in the title or something in the contents of that, and they struck it down. And did he appeal it? Did he get concrete info as to what they did? Crowder gave YouTube a massive lawsuit and they suddenly unbanned his channel. I don't think he's lying because how fast they unbanned his channel is telling. Again, we might be getting half the story, Just Barker. Did he claim that he did a lawsuit? Or is there evidence that he actually had a lawsuit against them? Did he just appeal the process and then a real person looked at it and said, oh yeah, unban the channel, we misfired here? That happens all the time. There was a guy recently who for whatever reason, his channel got banned and he appealed it and got his channel back. It was quick. It was a mistake. He reached out to YouTube creators on YouTube. They took a look at it and he got his channel back. Rule number 1 is that money is the mother's milk of politics. It's all about jockeying so they can monetize the outrage, Poli-Sci 101. Well, that's why I don't want to engage with a lot of these guys' content, because that's a lot of what they do. Google's a tad bigger than Crowder by a few billion. If you watch the clip you posted, they don't know exactly what was said was hate speech. That's what he claims, though. That's what he claims. Mama Max claimed the same thing. They claim the same thing. And it's like, no, you were told the exact spot and why, and you refused to remove it. So we don't know if he appealed it and spoke to an actual person at YouTube. Did they explain what was said and why it was viewed that way? Did they give him clarity? That's what I mean. We're not getting both sides here. I didn't know what to think about the Mama Max video until I saw the other side. And I was like, oh, thank you, YouTube. You told him where it was, why it was wrong. This was the line in the Crowder vid. Likely because you show this and this, the algorithm likely missed the fact that your attempt to use it to point out hypocrisy. Perhaps there are more constructive ways to get the point across. This was what was in. Okay. Like I said, these dum-dums dance on the line, and then when they get smacked, they want to act like I'm being censored because of my political leanings. Shut the frick up. No, you're not. No, you're not. You dance on the line and you put something like that in your video, and then you want to act like you're innocent. Like, I just was talking about my views and I got censored. Right. That's why Shapiro's fine. He doesn't put that kind of stuff. I've never seen anything like that in his content. He's bristly and cold and cutting, but he would never put that kind of nonsense in his videos. At least I've never seen anything like that. Because people try and go after him too. Elaborate, please. With some corps, they're one and the same. I get what you're saying, Kat. But in this scenario, every single time I say, okay, show me. Show me evidence that the platform is banning people for political biases. This is what I get. I get spurious half claims, and then I find out what was in the video. Oh, you put that in the video. Gee, I wonder why the video got struck down. You dum-dum. They probably, yeah, if you take this out, it's totally fine. Same thing with Mama Max. But you don't get that. Why? Because outrage and anti-corporation speech works wonders. It works wonders. Yeah, it's a Band-Aid, Rad. Somebody told me about it. It's a Band-Aid. I got a little cut on my forehead from... I smacked it on my new boom. It's like one of those little like see-through Band-Aids. I don't think he really cares. He knows he dances on the line and doesn't seem offended when stuff like this happens. From what I'm seeing, his stuff is reactions. Well, right, Christina, this is all part of the brand, is it not? It's all part of the brand. The man is schwitzing. It's really warm in the office, Rad. It is. It is. I'm glad that you're worried about my appearance and complexion. That's like a good twin sister. You're trying to take care of me. Just a bunch of young idiots who don't read their TOS and then play victim when they get bopped. Well, it's part of the brand. It's part of the brand. You play the martyr card. Like, oh, I'm a martyr. You know, I'm out here speaking the truth, and they're trying to silence us. Oh, shut up. That's just so phony. That's what sells right now, though. Think about it. Like I said, it always feels like this red pill conspiracy theory thing, and when I press against the claims, there's nothing credible there, and it just was proven with this Crowder claim. You claim he got banned for political leanings, and when we press on the claim, look what we find. A video with something really offensive in it got flagged. I can't believe that. Something racially charged and considered very offensive was in your video. Oh, I can't believe it got flagged and taken down. What a shocker. Like I said before. What did I say before all this started? I didn't even know the details. What did I say? These guys dance on the line, and then they act like they didn't do anything wrong, and they give you half the story. Why? Because it gets them clicks. It gets them promoted. And as I pointed out, there's plenty of anecdotal evidence that right-leaning content creators do just as well on YouTube as the left. Shapiro's getting 1 to 2 million views a day and just passed 4 million subs on his YouTube channel. You will never convince me that YouTube's out here grinding some political axe, because a guy like that would not have a successful channel. They wouldn't be super... Do you know how easy it would be to make his channel not do that well? It wouldn't be that hard. You kill his reach and his videos would go nowhere. You just kill his reach. I know firsthand what happens to a channel when your reach dies. As soon as your reach dies, you're nothing. You can't get traction. You can't get movement. Why? You don't have any reach. No one's seeing your videos to click on them. They could do that with a push of a button. Boop. Yeah, limit his reach. Wouldn't be very hard. Wouldn't be very hard at all. And his channel would be dead in the water. He wouldn't be bagging 1 to 2 million views a day. He wouldn't be getting 4 million subs on his channel. He toes the line with jokes. He's a comedy show. Can YouTube remove content because they don't like the jokes? Does that sound like a platform or a publisher? It depends on what the TOS states. If the TOS states that they don't want speech and jokes that fall into that category, they're well within their right to do that. You don't see Dave Chappelle with the YouTube channel, do you? Do you think his jokes, do you think his content would do well over here? Do you think he'd be able to put up his Dave Chappelle show skits and drop some of the words that he drops with regularity? Do you think his jokes would do well over here? No, they'd be like, that's against our TOS. It's their platform. Now, obviously, he signs a contract with Netflix, and Netflix makes a bunch of money, and the headlines and the controversy was probably Netflix's dream. Oh my gosh. They probably made a ton of money from that. All these dum-dums thinking that they're going to accomplish something by attacking Dave Chappelle. All they did was drive people to Netflix. Netflix was probably like, thank you. YouTube still has to pick and choose its battles, though. Ben will probably fall into that category. What category? This is the second time I'm starting dinner late because of you. I'm sorry, Tyler. Lono only talks in facts. I like that. They're not in their right to do that if they have Section 230 protection, right? They are in their right to do that. Brutal, I think you are misunderstanding. I like you. We always have good debates, so understand. We always have good debates. The 230 protection is about liability. You're trying to flip that in the inverse and make it about something else. It is merely about liability. So that if someone watches a video and says, you know what? There was this backwoods pastor, and he uploaded a video about what I should do, and I'm in the army of the Lord, and this guy goes on a spree and murders a bunch of people. They're not liable for that. Why? It's because the guy made the video and it got misconstrued and misunderstood. This guy writes a manifesto before he dies, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, take the video down. And then they take the video down. Section 230 protects them when that happens. Section 230 does not mean they can't say, hey, we don't want jokes or content that land in the category of hate, and if you do it, we're going to remove the video. Well, now you're not protected by 230. No, that's a non sequitur. It does not follow. It does not logically follow that if they enforce their TOS, they've relinquished their protection against liability. They're not logically connected. You keep trying to logically connect them, and they're not. Section 230 merely means they're not liable for the content that gets put here. Why? The sheer scope and size of the platform limits their oversight abilities, so stuff slips through. And they're not held liable for this guy made a video encouraging people to do terrible things, and it was up for 5 hours, and then it got taken down, and some guy went on a tirade, and he murdered a bunch of people. YouTube's liable. No, they're not. No, they're not. Section 230 doesn't mean what the right thinks it means. If you remove 230 protections, just watch how much conservative right-leaning content gets removed. What do you mean by that, Eugene? Things are about to get interesting when this guy's social media platform that was in the works is coming out. Search TMTG. There's an investment called DWAC for it as well. Not recommending it, by the way. Oh. Imagine if the same is true for YouTube. Contrary to popular belief, Twitter algorithm amplifies conservatives. Of course they do. Of course they do. I'm not even getting political. But of course they do, because they're known for being in this day and age. They're known for being more bombastic. They're known for being more outlandish in what they say. You can support them and vote for them and love them, but you have to see they're known for being bombastic. And guess what? That's really good for Twitter. It's really good for Twitter. Tristan Harris talked about this in a congressional hearing about these platforms and why they actually thrive in environments where there is fireworks and outlandish claims or conspiracy theories. It's actually really, really good for the platforms. It's good for Facebook. It's good for Twitter. And don't kid yourself. It's good for YouTube. It is. 71% of the platform's views come from suggestions. And if you get red-pilled, do you want to know what you do? You just consume all these videos about all sorts of conspiracies. And that's great for advertising dollars. Outrage is great for money. So, I don't care what leaning you are, whether you're left leaning or right leaning, you have to see things as they are. Like, the more right leaning the pundit or the blogger or the politician, I would say that they're a little bit more outraged these days. Both sides do it, so I'm not going to sit here and act like one side doesn't do it. They both do it. But the outrage tends to burn a little bit hotter, especially when you're not in... if you don't got a guy in the Oval Office, all right, then you're more outraged. This just tends to be how it goes, right? When a blue state's in the Oval Office, the red states tend to be more outraged. When a red state guy's in the Oval Office, the blue states tend to be more outraged. It's just the way that it goes. I'm not singling one side out because I don't really care. I don't really find myself on either side personally. So to act as if these platforms have an interest in silencing one side, they make money from both sides screaming. So the more they scream, the better the money rolls in. How can a company say they don't want hate, a loose term, remove it from their platform, and they consider themselves an open platform without liability? Removing a video proves you a publisher. No, that's a non sequitur. That's not true. That's not true. That is not logically solid. That's logically shaky. It's logically shaky. Because the minute you turn them into a publisher, the platforms self-destruct. They self-destruct. The minute you say, oh, you're not allowed to moderate your own platform. Okay, let's take this to its logical conclusion, Brutal Gear. Then I'm a publisher. Why? Because I moderate my own chat and I get stuff out of it that I don't like. See how ludicrous that is? I'm not a publisher just because I ban someone from my chat for putting something awful. If someone comes in and goes on a hate tirade in my chat, I really hate these types of people and here's why. And I ban that idiot. I'm like, get out of here with your hate, right? Well, you're a publisher now, Lono. What the frick? No, I'm not. Not what? No. I'm moderating my chat. I'm moderating the platform I built. Offensive hate speech subjective? Of course it is. That doesn't mean that they're publishers. That doesn't mean that they're a publisher. Just because they decide that Crowder's video had something in it that was hateful and they took it down. Well, that's subjective. I thought it was funny. Good for you. It's not your platform. Next. It's not your platform. YouTube is not a public forum that must guarantee users' rights to free speech. Right. We've walked through all of this. There's so many premises here that you have to walk through. Premise 1, Americans have so fully integrated with technology sites like YouTube and Twitter that they integrate their rights with the platform, and they don't understand why their rights don't apply. That's premise number 1. Premise number 2, they are well within their right to moderate the platform according to their terms of service and how they see those terms of service applying to the content on the platform, right? Premise number 3, they're more interested in making money, not silencing dissenting viewpoints, and there are really large and successful channels that prove this axiom true. You know? Until you disprove all those premises, you're never going to convince me that there's some conspiracy theory. There's like some conspiracy theory, and like YouTube is silencing the other side. I love streams like this on Presents. Yeah, I know. We just keep getting into heavy waters every day. It seems so unavoidable. You got to dismantle all those premises before you're even going to begin to argue that YouTube's a publisher and they are enacting biases in their enforcement of the TOS. Okay, great. Prove it. No one's proved it yet. I'm literally sitting here asking for proof. And the proof I got was a Crowder video with some nasty stuff in it that, yeah, he danced on the line. As I said at the beginning of all this, these guys dance on the line, and when they get their wrists smacked, they want to cry wolf. That's the gray area I'm trying to highlight. I think they have used the term hate to unjustifiably remove content they don't like. I think we disagree with the line is. No, we don't disagree with the line is. You have not substantiated your claim. Where have they unjustifiably removed content under the guise of hate? Where? And who? I've already knocked down the Crowder one because he danced on the line. He put somebody in his dadgum video with when a light-skinned person puts a bunch of dark makeup on their face. You know what that is, right? That was in his video. You honestly think that you're not running a gauntlet and a gamut by doing that? You just think, oh yeah, they don't like my political leanings. No, you idiots. You put something in your video that's offensive, historically speaking. That's just ignorant. So what are your other examples? Shadow banning is inherently hard to prove. No, shadow banning is really easy to prove, vet. It's extremely easy to prove. You can run reports and look at a channel's growth patterns, trajectories, upload schedules, titles, tags, descriptions. You can look at the reach behind on the if it's your channel, you can look at the reach and what your channel, what your video was seen by and why. It's extremely easy to prove shadow banning. Because it doesn't happen. If it happened, it'd be so blatantly obvious. Blatantly obvious. Comedy must be dead if you think that bit was offensive. Oh, gosh. Okay. I don't like it, but it should not be a removable offense. The point of free speech is protection of speech you don't like. Free speech doesn't apply. I just set up all those premises and you just got your head chopped off by one. The point of free speech is protection of speech you don't like. That's not applicable here. It's not free speech. It's YouTube's platform. And they say, we don't want that on here. They have every right to do that. If Dave Chappelle decided, like, let's say Dave Chappelle had an exclusivity contract with Netflix that expired, and he started uploading his specials over here, YouTube has every right to be like, you know what? No, according to our TOS, we think the language in these videos and the jokes therein do not abide by our TOS. You can't put them here. They're not infringing on Chappelle's speech, and I would be totally fine with YouTube doing that. As I've defended Chappelle, I would also defend YouTube's right to be like, no, we don't want that content on our platform. Why? Because it's their platform. It's their platform. YouTube's a platform protected by 230. It's the bridge that extends free speech to platforms created by companies. No, that is a misapplication and a misrepresentation of Protection 230. Protection 230 protects them from liability of what others have said. It does not extend free speech. That is a non sequitur worse than the previous non sequiturs you've used with respect to 230. That's not how 230 works. I've shot this down time and time again. It's with respect to liability. 230 refers to we're not liable if you post something terrible and something terrible happens as a result. That does not suddenly you get to sneak in free speech. Oh, yeah. They're protected from liability. We get to sneak in free speech. No! Absolutely not. That's not what that means. That's not how it works. You can say that, you just can't say it here. Free speech in the public sphere, not in the private. Why can't people understand this? That's what I've been trying to say for the past hour. I'm surprised people don't bring this guy up, says Eugene. He's been kicked off everything. Yeah, well. You dance on the line. I'm about to 230 people in a minute. You need to change the subject. You're not going to get anywhere on this subject. You're actually doing what's considered a fool's errand, which is telling the streamer to change the subject. That has never been successful ever in the history of people attempting to do it. And you're not going to be the first person to successfully do it. This is what we do here. We take ideas, subjects, and topics, and we gnaw them down to the bone. I enjoy it, and the audience tends to as well. What are your thoughts on social media becoming the new public square? That's the best argument you can make. That's the best argument you can make, and even then, it doesn't hold water. It doesn't hold water. The literal, best argument you can make is you can say, you've repeated yourself 4 times, but okay, it's my channel and I'll do what I want, but okay. But okay has to be one of the most smarmy, weak ways to end a sentence. It's like, well, I can't win the argument or whatever we're talking about, but so I'll end the sentence with but okay. You have no sway over what we're doing here. So continue to take little, passive attempts to, but okay, whatever. Anyways, the idea that the reach of these platforms, okay, whether it's Twitter or YouTube, you could make the argument that they are quasi-public spaces. You could make that argument. You could say, listen, the reach of YouTube and Twitter and the fact that people can make accounts, it's a quasi-public space. Sure. But the difference is they're privately owned, and the minute you make an account, you agree to their terms and conditions. Therefore, it negates any semblance of a public space. It would be like going into work and signing a form that says, when you work here and when you're on the property, you won't say the word golly. And you're like, okay. Maybe their upper management or their CEO, if he hears the word golly, it's extremely triggering for him, and he goes off into some insane, raged, crazed tantrum. And that's just their policy. They're like, listen, it feels weird, but when you come in here, we're asking you to sign this agreement that when you're on the property and you're an employee here, you're not going to use the word golly. And you're like, okay. And then you go upstairs and you're like, golly, I can't believe they don't let us do that. That seems like that goes against free speech. Wrong. You relinquished that when you signed the agreement. So you can make the strongest, most convincing argument. You could make it compelling. I believe you could. You could make a compelling argument that the reach and the size of these platforms, that they are quasi-public squares. Okay? However, in order to say anything, you must make an account. And when you make the account, you agree to their terms of service, and you therefore relinquish the rights that would apply to a public space. That's the end of the argument. That's the end of the argument. Basically, social media is a soapbox that's given to you, but if you want a soapbox, you have to agree to the person's demands who gives you the soapbox, right? Maybe it's just me, says Dauntless, but as someone who leans one way, I seem to see the different sides getting treated differently. One side seems to get away with the thing the other can't. You would need to show me concrete evidence of this. You would need to find me like left-leaning YouTube channels that have put that kind of nonsense in their videos and gotten away with it. The only example we've been given is a Crowder video where the guy, it was a light-skinned person with dark makeup on, and we all know what that's called. That's the only example I've been given. And I gave contrary evidence to being like, what are you talking about? Like, Shapiro's setting records. Like, what do you mean? Right-leaning channels are doing perfectly fine. Right-leaning Twitter accounts get insane engagement. Like, all the research points to these guys getting lots of engagement. They're not sequestered. They're not shadow banned. They're not treated unfairly, right? The Young Turks. I'm fairly certain the Young Turks have had videos and issues, have they not, with monetization and videos struck down? You would need to give me examples of the fact that they've done that and just gotten away with it. You'd have to find one-to-one examples of, well, they did the same thing that he did and they got away with it. I would need examples. YouTube can 100% remove your access to their platform without doing anything illegal. Right. There's no public squares when there's a TOS. It's simply not a thing. So where do we go when these companies have all but total control over how the vast majority of people, both public and private, communicate with each other? Oh gosh, like this is the thing, right? This is always the thing. So there's this, I would call it, if it's paranoia, I don't think it's justifiable. If it's concern, caution, or worry, okay, probably justifiable. Because of some of the stuff that's happened on Facebook. The flow of information being unchecked and potentially then misleading has led to all sorts of things. Just ask your ask your grandmas, grandpas, aunts, and uncles on Facebook. Just ask them about any given subject. Go ahead. Phone them up if they have a Facebook account, phone them up and you ask them about current events. Yeah. And see how much misinformation they've just gobbled up wholesale because it's just there. Little mommy blogs and all kind of nonsense and misinformation and junk science just circulating, on Facebook. And when a lot of that stuff started to get smacked down and removed, what did people claim? This is censorship. You're infringing on our free speech. You shouldn't be allowed to do this, right? And so once that happens, you're never going to convince those people that they're being sort of, I guess, protected from misinformation. And then people jump to the next of, well, if they can control this, then they can control the flow of information and they can control what the public thinks. Yeah, sure. Yep. Let me tell you why they won't do that. Because they're more interested in money. And they make lots of money when both sides get to scream and yell into their megaphones. They make lots of money from that. There's plenty of evidence of that. You can't go from commentary about social polarization and the deadlock within the, political realm and the societal realm and the cultural realm. You can't look at that polarized political deadlock and say, look at this, and look how much the platforms and the news outlets, look how much they benefit from this polarization. And then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, but they're going to control the flow of information and they're going to brainwash all of us. Like you're jumping to something that I don't see evidence for. I see more evidence for these platforms making tons of money off of people screaming at each other. Silencing people and trying to control the flow of information doesn't make them money. It doesn't. Unless there's super, super deep pockets somewhere, like some organizations just got massive pockets. And they're like, listen, we'll pay you trillions if you convince everybody of this thing or whatever. And I just don't find any evidence of that happening. They said in a lawsuit that their fact-checking was more opinion-based. I'm not saying that what Facebook did was right, Aaron. What I'm saying is once that happened, everybody ran to wild conspiracy theories of censorship. That was the immediate conclusion. Gothics hasn't had any trouble either. Yeah, I mean, she covers tons of those subjects. Yeah, exactly. And her videos seem to do just fine. I remember the Zuckerberg hearing, and man, it was sad and entertaining seeing so many old geezers not understand how the internet works. Yeah, that was something. All right. What time is it? Yeah, we're going to shift gears here in a little bit to the Horizon Forbidden West stream, but we still got some time. We can pick this up in a minute. Give me 1 second. Okay, I'm back. Sorry. The in-laws are getting ready to go to lunch, and then they're heading out. So I had to say my goodbyes. All right. On average, about 500 hours of videos are uploaded every minute. That's one of the reasons why, like, I tried to tell people earlier, like, if you suddenly tried to turn this platform into a publisher, like, it would absolutely destroy it. They wouldn't be able to do it. It would not be possible. It wouldn't be possible. They would immediately lose so much efficiency of what makes a platform great. You know, you want to make a channel right now, you know, vlogging about your experience as a delivery driver or a gardener or whatever, do it, you know. But you make them a publisher and you're going to be at the back of the line, some tiny new nothing channel, and they're not going to watch your videos and make sure it would get good treatment. You know, that's not going to happen. They're going to prioritize the big channels, the news outlets. They'll make sure all their stuff gets approved first. You know, maybe we'll get your video approved in a week. It would be just grossly destructive to the platform. And it would be the same for Twitter and for Facebook. How do you expect people to interact socially, you know, on a platform like that if everything has to be checked, double check, you know what I'm saying? You know, the degree with which people were posting stuff and how frequently they were posting stuff. What are we gonna do here? 30. Okay, we can schedule it for 12:30. Yeah. Yes, I'm scheduling the next stream. Save image as. Okay. We have been sort of niching down into MMOs, RPGs, and From Software games, but I definitely want to make sure we cover the new Horizon Forbidden West stuff because it looks really, really good. A lot of great vids out there, really, really great footage, and YouTube tends to be censoring videos about the Biden video emails. Yeah, and again, I would need to fully dive down into that golden boot. I would need to dive into what the videos were, what they contained, what they said before I was like, oh yeah, they're doing this thing. You know what I mean? It's so easy because there are policies about like showing private communications and stuff. And so I don't know. I'd have to look more heavily at that. I would. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that a platform is beyond the reach of somebody with deep pockets saying, "Hey, we don't want that video, you know, up right now." You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to act like that's not a potential thing. But I'm also not going to act like most of the claims I've seen, whenever I push against them, I find them to be weak. I find them to be incredibly weak. Every time, universally, because I've seen this claim so many times, and I dive down the rabbit hole, and I get all the details, and I'm like, nah, this has been very overstated and misrepresented. Unfortunately in TOS, but we could argue that these platforms just change TOS to support their behavior. YouTube stands on the pointy thing. Now they delete content that discourages it. Again, I would just need to see evidence of that. I've seen plenty of videos recently. I've seen videos from both Shapiro and Gothics on that are doing just fine. Rageous Rose is highly drinkable due to its low acidity. Not low acidity, it's balanced acidity. It's balanced acidity. I need to figure out where all this footage is, too. I know there's lots of footage of the Slitherfang from Horizon Forbidden West that we want to look at and break down. You guys should like the next stream. I'm going to be doing a lot of I Told You So. I'm going to be doing a lot of I Told You So. Who decides what is a lie? I'm going to be honest with you. I think anybody who wants to make content about... This spans a lot of subjects, so this might sound Big Brother. Love the debates with you. You're a great sparring partner. Thank you, Brutal. You too. I think this spans a lot of categories. Okay? I think content pertaining to mental health, okay? Mental health, nutritional health, medicinal topics. Yeah? And maybe even, physical fitness. Okay? I believe all those categories are fraught with charlatans and misinformation and should be far more regulated. That's what I think. Without actual proof of certifications or authority or specialty, I don't think these platforms should allow people to be talking about mental health, physical health, nutrition, physical fitness, none of this stuff. You should have to prove that you are an authority on the subject. You know how easy it would be to fool a bunch of old folks with a video? You put on a lab coat, get really good production and lighting. You could convince old people to do all kind of things. They're extremely susceptible to scams. You can see this with the phone call scams that come through. It happens all the time. It's so easy. When they did the study, they traced 90% of the misinformation back to 6 people. All 6 of those people should have had their voices silenced. Might as well be pulling the trigger themselves. Yeah. This is very true. Lono tricks us into thinking he knows something about video games every single day. That's right. What about this guy who's trying to get his findings out to the public? Dauntless, I'm immediately suspicious of somebody who's trying to use Rogan, YouTube, or Twitter to get that stuff out there. Why? There are established means of getting those types of findings out into the public. I don't buy that. I don't even know who the guy is. And those means won't let me get the information out. Yeah, but you have to ask why. You think the global community doesn't like him or something? This part always makes me curious. Do people understand how revolutionary findings, or findings that such and such a thing causes such and such a thing, right? There was the one that circulated that stuff like that with your kids could cause autism or whatever. And there's been like 18 different. There was one, I found the PDF on like the back edge of a site at Oxford. And I'm like, okay, so they have their findings in a PDF. You got to go to their database and search it to find the study on Oxford. You think they're doing that, and that's some kind of like global conspiracy or something. No, it was just a peer-reviewed paper, and that was how you found it. And then what, the guys there at Oxford were in on it? Can we instead call it the stabby? The scientific community sounds like groupthink. The scientists who disagree or can prove otherwise. You understand that that's just so not true. That's not true. Across the globe, breakthrough studies and discoveries are celebrated. Once they're tested and replicated, they're celebrated. People win prizes. Like, you know what I mean? Who has that level of reach? Who? That's my question. Who has that level of reach to silence that? Like, there are frontline doctors to studies and discoveries all across the globe. How would you possibly be like, well, we don't want certain things to get out? Like, how would you even do that? How? There are doctors and fields of study all across the globe that make breakthrough discoveries all the time. And the reason it needs to be replicated and peer-reviewed is because they could have made a mistake. They could be fudging the numbers because there's a lot of money if they do that. So the idea that like somehow globally there's this way to keep that information quiet, I'm like, how on earth would that be possible? And because there's tons of money to be made if somebody were to replicate it and then say, oh no, yeah, this guy's right. You know, if some guy in a lab in Europe discovered that like extracts from the peels of limes could heal and limit I don't even know, eczema, something simple, something non-life threatening. If this guy makes this discovery that extracts from the peels of limes, the fruit, the citrus, could heal eczema, okay? And he submits his paper and his findings. And it's peer-reviewed, it's studied, and other people replicate it. That's a breakthrough. There would be products developed. There'd be money. There'd be interviews. He'd be celebrated. He'd be published, right? Now, if there was some sort of if people didn't want that to happen, because like there were creams out there to treat eczema and they made lots of money on people who always suffered from it, and they tried to silence that guy, how on earth would they do that? How? Yeah, the government does it all the time. Sure, yeah, the American government would somehow overreach into Europe and be like, silence that study. Trusting science without question is dumb. What's your alternative authority? I'm not saying that I trust science without question. What's your alternative authority? This is what I always enjoy. This is what I always enjoy in this discussion. Open your eyes. Ask questions. Okay, and what's your authoritative check then? What's your authority? What authority are you appealing to? A blog? Some guy on a podcast? Skepticism is not a belief. It isn't. Skepticism grounded in nothing is nothing in and of itself. What's your skepticism rooted in? What's your belief rooted in? That talk gets filtered if it doesn't line up with a certain POV. That's false. That's not true. No, that's not true. I've literally seen videos from plenty of guys talking about it, and their videos do very, very well from the POV that you shouldn't, or you should question it, or you should doubt it. The cynicism and the skepticism is actually doing quite well anytime it's brought up. Those videos actually do quite well. The idea that it's being filtered, I just don't think is provable. I've not seen any proof of that. I've seen proof of the opposite. Yo, what's good, Cream of Wheat? Hope you had a good Christmas as well. You can always find a counter argument and decide based on evidence presented in said argument. Right, and where is it? That's my question. When a person is avoiding the checks and balances, right? When a person is avoiding the checks and balances and going to podcasts and YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook, you don't ask why? That doesn't make you curious? YouTube removed all the channels asking questions, gets labeled as conspiracy and removed. False. Show me the proof that happened. That's not true. Why does Gothic still have a channel? Why does Ben Shapiro still have a channel? That's false. Where are these channels that got removed for asking questions? That's all they did was ask questions. Where are these channels? Where did that happen? I've seen countless videos doing exactly that with tons of views, likes, and comments. You have to ask yourself who's doing the checks and balances. Sure, do that if you get a terminal illness. Do that for me. Yeah. Do that if you or a loved one gets a terminal illness. Question the years of the scientific fields of studies and the discoveries and the peer reviews and the medication and the medicinal breakthroughs. Look at the survival rates of people with terminal illnesses. Look at the life expectancy of people compared to 200 years ago. Go ahead and act that way when you or a family member gets a terminal illness. You won't do it. Suddenly, they're the authority and they're worthy of trust. When your bone is broken or you have a heart attack or a terminal illness, suddenly that field of study is locked, solid, and rock. Yeah, this is okay. Now, roll my freaking eyeballs. You don't do that in any other category. Well, Doc, you say I need to be rushed into emergency surgery. I really got to ask, what's that based off of? And, who peer-reviewed it and, who made the discovery breakthrough, with respect to open heart surgery. I really got to know more here. I got to ask questions. Because your established authority is not good enough. I tend to think that my skepticism rooted in nothing is more reliable. And if it sounds like I don't respect skepticism, it's because I don't. I think skepticism in these realms, I think skepticism in the realm of philosophy, religion, skepticism in this realm, I don't respect it. I think it's a lazy position. I think it's lazy. It's easy to sit back and say, I'm just asking questions. I'm just saying question everything. I'm just posturing as an intellectual when you're not. I don't respect skepticism as a position because it's not a position. It's the anti-position that postures like Jell-O you can't nail to the wall. I don't respect it. It's not, though, brutal. It's not different. No, because there's methods of developing. Yeah. I don't like getting into this because here's why. It doesn't matter what I say. It doesn't matter what facts I present. We could talk about the history of how these things are developed and why it's trustworthy and why it's reliable, and it wouldn't matter because you've already determined your position on it, so I'm wasting my time. If there's one thing I've learned in this discussion is that facts and evidence do not matter. They don't matter. I could point to the history. I could point to the reliability of these types of discoveries. I could point to the overwhelming number of zero problem cases compared to the infinitesimally small cases of very minor issues, and it wouldn't matter. No, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that, J-Stock, because the science has come far. You're making a false equivalency comparison. That would be like saying, well, way back then, it took 50 years to get combustion engines right. I don't trust a brand new car off the sales lot. Why would that be a stupid thing to say? Because the science of combustion engines and making them has come extremely far. Postulating that corruption doesn't exist? No, I've not done that. Nice straw man, though. Weak. That's weak. Don't do that. Weak argumentation gets slapped real hard around here. Don't do that. I did not postulate that. That's a straw man. Do better. I want to rewind the clock because, right? Like, I don't want to rewind the clock because this topic isn't worth discussing. It isn't. It's not worth discussing. The reason it started is I asked for definitive proof that certain channels were being taken down, right, because of their leanings. And this is not true, and this has not been substantiated or proved, right? It isn't. It's not been proven. I've been told that channels for asking questions were banned. I've been told that videos that went in one political way were deleted. And we have found zero credible evidence that that is true. We've pointed to plenty of credible evidence that channels and videos about these subjects have done just fine, right? We got on this subject because of the Mama Max thing, right? And so, obviously, talking about this subject, you guys all went down some rabbit hole of like, this is all, you know, this is all happening, and this they're trying to silence people, and they're trying to silence this, and blah 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 blah, right? And so, yeah, you have examples of like that, but you're using Google to make your argumentation for you. There is not a traceable record of like YouTube choosing a side and silencing the other side. It's conspiracy theory nonsense. I've seen no evidence provided today. And frankly, if you guys carry this over into the next stream, I'll just ban you because I'm done. I'm done. I asked for examples. The examples I given were freaking weak. So keep it out of my Discord and keep it out of my YouTube channel. I'm sick of seeing it in the Discord anyway. Some of you guys have really pushed the envelope, and I'm over it. We were talking about Mama Max and a video about something completely different, and everybody wants to run down this stupid rabbit trail. Well, you're done. Don't do it or suffer the consequences. Why is it demonetized? Because it's about advertisers. So many of you, with respect, just don't understand how these platforms operate, and much of what you think and much of what you say is just rooted in ignorance. That's not an insult, but you just don't understand how it operates. So you say things and make statements that are grandiose and are just basically rooted in ignorance. Advertisers don't want to be on videos about that stuff, and it's their money, and they have every right to say that and do that. Again, you don't understand how the platform works, so you just assume that's big bad YouTube being a bully. And that's false, not true, and unsubstantiated. But it gets for good clicks on Reddit and Twitter, I'm sure, to accuse some corporation of mass corruption. Like, that's the going trend these days, is to, I don't understand how this thing works, so I'm going to jump to conclusions about what's going on. In the same situation with the Mama Max video. It was full of people talking as if they're entitled to advertising dollars and being monetized, and you're not. You're not. You're not entitled to those things. And the platform saying, well, no, we don't want to do this, we don't want to do this, so we don't want this showing up on these videos. But that's a conspiracy theory that advertisers don't want to be on videos about certain subjects. It's been like that for a very, very long time. 2 years ago, it was like this on the platform. Getting demonetized was super common if you talked about certain things. It's always been like that. Some History Channel get vids clapped. Guess what? Once appealed, it's fixed. Right? A lot of this is because it's automated. A lot of this is because they can't watch every single video that gets put up. So, again, so much of what gets said about YouTube and these conspiracy theories is literally rooted in ignorance. It's like you don't understand you don't understand how the platform works, so you run off with these like wild claims about like what the platform's doing. I asked for proof, and I was given none. I was given one video that had something in it that was like, as I said before all of this started, before this entire debate started, I said these guys dance on the line, and when they get smacked, they want to cry wolf and claim they're innocent. And the example I was given was exactly that. A guy danced on the line, he put something that is known to be offensive in his video, and when the video got clapped, he acted all ignorant about what happened. He's selling you a story because that gets clicks and support. That gets clicks and support. So, I enjoy you challenging my thoughts. You never want yes men around you. Yeah, but this subject is pointless. We always end up here. We were talking about YouTube and a current situation, the whole pick a side thing. That's what we were talking about. And all roads lead to this. Why? Because you've bought into the vids and the blogs and the whatever, and that's your position. And so you think that means everybody that thinks this way is being silenced. And it's just the same Kool-Aid that people were drinking when Crowder claimed it. It just simply isn't true. Now, if videos were, and see, this is what happens. We're over 3 hours, so it doesn't matter. This is what happens. People post nonsense crap that deserves to be slapped down, and then you use that as evidence that YouTube's doing censorship. And I think that's a fatal error and a fatal mistake. Sure, you could go right now. Somebody said that there was like QAnon video channels that got smacked down. Yeah, they were probably posting stuff that was against terms and conditions, and you're going to try and use that as evidence of censorship. That's just smuggling in just junk evidence. It's like, well, yeah, what were they doing? What were the videos? What was in the videos? Did they break the rules? Based on everything I've seen this morning, they broke the rules. Every time I pushed in on one of these video takedowns or channel takedowns, you know what I always find? People breaking the rules. Not some grand conspiracy theory, not some grand case of censorship, but people breaking the rules. So you can think whatever you want about the stabby and the sicky. That's not what we were talking about. I'm asking for concrete evidence that people abided by the rules and were silenced, and I've been given none. Yeah, you can't do that, Victor, exactly. All I'll say one thing about the pick a side BS, so maybe you can understand. YouTube picked a side, and they picked the FBI side. They're required to report these things to the FBI. Yeah. So I'll never sit here and try and sway you and convince you one way or the other about the sicky or the stabby or science. I won't. That's not my interest. I was pushing back on the skeptical notion and the sinister, this is sort of conspiracy theory notion that like YouTube's out here censoring. And it's like every time I push in on those claims and look at the evidence, it's like, no, there's no credible evidence that they're doing that. People break the rules, get their videos taken down, and then they claim that's what's going on. It happens all the time. The first example we were given, Crowder trying to claim that, like, oh, I was silenced because of my political leanings. Why is Shapiro well and good? Why are numerous videos that I've seen recently that are on the opposite end of this spectrum doing just fine? You think it's crazy you have to call it stabby? It's not crazy. It's a monetization issue, J-Stock. Again, you're conflating categories. You're conflating advertisers that don't want to be on videos about that with censorship. They're different categories. I avoid saying sicky or stabby. I avoid saying those things. Why? Because advertisers don't want to land on videos that talk about it. That's not censorship. That's people being like, listen, we're spending millions here to advertise on this platform, and we don't want to land on content that lands in here, 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 and here. In the same way that, let's say you did, you covered, I don't know, like you reviewed children's programs and children's movies, and you avoid foul language. Well, they're trying to censor you. No, it's because you fall into a category with advertisement that you don't want to get out of because it's good for your pocketbook. That's fair. I get your point. Might not agree with it. You don't agree with advertisers determining where their ads land? Like, why would you not agree with that? It's their money and it's their ad. They have every right to be like, here's our target audience, here's our target demographic. Don't show our ads on videos that are about sports, controversial topics, the sickie. There are people probably that don't want their ads to show up on political stuff. That's not censorship. That's just like, we want our marketing dollars to be well spent and to be effective. No, Commando G-Man, I addressed this earlier. We got to move on, but I addressed this earlier. ABC and CNN do not get demonetized for one simple reason. Number one, they probably are on a list of channels that are, I guess, given the green light. Why? Because that's not all they talk about. They have a history of covering, global and national news. And so those things are going to come up, right? Something horrendous, something violent, something troubling, but they're also reporting on, what Kim Kardashian had for breakfast. So they're in another category. They're in a category of, we cover a host of these things. And so advertisers are going to be like, look, we don't mind landing on channels like that because we know that they fall within a certain purview. It's not just some yahoo with a GoPro and an angry rant about, the sickie, okay? So there is a gigantic categorical difference between you and your vigilante channel or your investigative channel and CNN. I'm not saying you should trust or watch any of these news outlets anymore. Most of them are incredibly biased and tough. I think they're tough to trust. However, they've got an established rapport and relationship with both YouTube advertisers and the public that, yeah, we're going to talk about a whole host of things. That's different than a guy who puts a GoPro on his chest and catfishes a nasty guy. Like Anxiety War. If you can't see the categorical difference between CNN talking about something nasty and this guy with a GoPro trying to expose something nasty, they're not well in the same. They're not one and the same. Right? They're not one and the same. And so that was the mistake so many people made in that Mama Max video. They were like, well, we get demonetized when we talk about this. Yeah, because you're not some trusted resource that gets a pass. Of course CNN and ABC are going to get a pass. They're established, decades-long news organizations. You're just some guy with a microphone and a camera. It's categorically different. And that's what hurt my brain watching the video. I was like, none of you are entitled to monetization. The advertisers don't know who you are. All they know is you used a bunch of buzzwords, and they don't want to land on a video like that. That's all they know. It's not censorship. It's not them choosing a side or trying to silence you. It's them saying, we spend tons of money to advertise on YouTube, and we don't want to land on Johnny GoPro who's ranting about really serious subjects. Can we land on CNN? Well, sure. Sure, that's a long-standing news organization. We're not advertising there as an endorsement of their political views. We're advertising there because lots of people watch it, and we know they're not going to say something insane. The advertisers, yes, when they're like, listen, this is a more reliable organization than you in your bedroom. How do you not see that? It's not, so like if Pepsi decides to advertise on CNN's YouTube channel, that's not Pepsi endorsing CNN's bias and their views. What they're saying is they're saying this is a news organization that isn't going to go off on some weird tirade. They're going to be within a certain spectrum of reliability with their coverage. They're not going to show something graphic without a warning. And even if they do, their next 10 videos won't be about that. Also, CNN and ABC and NBC sell publishers, and they are held accountable to the information that they put out into the public. Right, and they sell advertising space anyway sometimes. Sometimes it's not even managed by YouTube. I think sometimes those, like CNN, ABC, and NBC, I think sometimes they manage their own advertisement placement. I think they broker it themselves, or have a broker that does it. Those channels' days are numbered. No one wants staged, fake, or half-witted vigilante justice. Right. Yeah, exactly, Mackie. He got clapped for dancing on the line and doing something that he knew could get him in trouble, and then he claimed it was censorship. It's not. It's not. When are they held accountable and how? Tommy, I am not talking about holding news organizations accountable. I'm talking about advertisers. You guys keep jumping train tracks on me. It's tough, I know, because we're all talking about different things, and we all have different things in our minds. But I'm not talking about that. I've seen Crowder been put in YouTube jail for disagreeing with the CDC. I assume the YouTube has TOS about misinformation that they pointed to as a violation. I don't know. The proof that I was given today, Tommy, was that he put something in his video that was offensive, and that's why the video got clapped. I didn't see a claim today or proof that he got clapped for talking about that. It's all right, Dauntless. Theoretically speaking, what if they're wrong about something and they put out a video disproving? Should that be taken down? But that's, again, you're assuming that that's the criteria for YouTube. That's not. That's not what's going on. The issue at hand is, if you are going to speak on these subjects, let's just use mental health as an example. Would you be okay right now with somebody putting out videos about mental health and giving people advice who have crippling anxiety or clinical depression or agoraphobia or affect phobia? Would you be okay with them making videos about it and prescribing solutions or behavioral changes or solutions to their problem? Would you be okay with that? Because you shouldn't be okay with that unless they are actually clinically qualified to talk about it. And even then it's dangerous because they're not giving advice to somebody that they've done patient history on. Anybody worth their weight in salt in the mental health field wouldn't do that. They would give maybe very generic things and then always drive you to a professional. Why? Because patient-to-patient cases vary dramatically. One person's anxiety is not equal to another person's anxiety, and your advice and your diagnoses and your recommendations would not be equal. You shouldn't be okay with people going into Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, universe, hemisphere, whatever. You shouldn't be okay with people going into those environments and speaking on these things as if they're an authority or claiming they're an authority. It's too easy to be misleading and not an authority. And then people can get hurt. Now, does that mean that there has been maybe an over-realized sense of we are going to filter and flag anything that talks about this? Maybe. But wouldn't the opposite be far more dangerous? Wouldn't the opposite be far more dangerous? To be like, well, we're just going to let people say whatever they want and let the public figure it out. Well, okay, that could be absolutely wretched as far as a result. Wouldn't it be better to be more cautious and to be like, well, somebody made a video questioning this or calling it into question or being cynical or skeptical and it got deleted. Okay, well, I mean, maybe that was an overreach when those instances happen. Sure, maybe that's an overreach. But isn't it better to be overly cautious than to be brazen and reckless? I'm not sitting here saying, yeah, silence dissenting voices. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, isn't it better to be overly cautious? Wouldn't the opposite extreme be far more dangerous and then potentially deadly? Like, you see what I'm saying? Just, oh yeah, we're not going to try to filter or control this dialogue at all. We're just going to let the public run wild. Do you have any idea what would get out? What people would say and do and how many people would fall prey to it? Goodness gracious. Like I said, go ask your aunts, uncles, and grandparents about any of this stuff, and you'll be blown away by the nonsense that they believe. You will be blown away. Even if you're skeptical, even if you think a lot of this stuff's been overblown, even if you think this is just this or that or blah, 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 and you're not going to get the jab, fine. Go ask your aunts, uncles, and grandparents what they think about some of this stuff, and you'll be blown away with the crap that they've consumed. The stuff that, even for you, you'd be like, whoa, Grandpa, whoa. That sounds kind of wild. Yeah, well, he heard it or read it somewhere because that's what's out there. There's a charlatan on every corner waiting to make a buck from somebody. What do you think that, like, all these scams out there calling old folks about Social Security and insurance, you think all those scam artists out there can't change the sheep's clothing that they're wearing to talk about something else and mislead old folks just as easily and get a bunch of advertising dollars in the process? YouTube's policy to not let people spread false information about health issues. Right. And if sometimes they overreach and slap down a video for asking questions, okay, I've seen plenty of videos do very well with lots of views and they're monetized and they're asking questions. Seen plenty of videos do just fine. They're not just carte blanche, just taking down every video like that. Education about scams is how we prevent scams. Sure, and we've tried to do that, right? There are entire YouTube channels dedicated to exposing scam artists. Sure. And that's a good thing, right? That's a noble thing. You know, that's great. That's good entertainment when Kit Boga does it. But if their policy is we can't let people speak on these things and mislead people or spread misinformation, if they're being overly cautious, I'm probably more in favor of that as opposed to the opposite. Because people can get extremely hurt if they're given bad information on these subjects. Yeah, we'll be looking at the video. Yeah, you're not going to want to watch that stream, Bell. I've seen plenty of videos taken down for spreading false information about weight loss. You're not screaming for them. See? Creature's worked in this industry a long time. That's why. Like, he'll sit here and tell you so much of this stuff gets overblown. People get their videos struck down or banned because they break the rules. They don't get banned or struck down because they have a dissenting opinion or whatever. This is the bigger question you should be asking. Why are people trying to convince you of that? I appreciate your patience in discussing difficult topics, as many people get emotional discussing them. Well, thank you. Zoom out for a minute with me. Put down your position, and I'll put down my position. Everybody put down your positions for just a second. Stop arguing for your side, okay? Take a breath, realize that no one here is a threat to you because they disagree with you. We're all humans finding our way through the universe, okay? Everybody take a breath. I'm going to be quiet for like 5 seconds to give you that opportunity. Okay. Ask the question. Why are people trying to convince you that that's happening? Zoom all the way out on this. Zoom all the way out on this. I don't care what side you're on. Why is one side trying very hard to convince you that they're being silenced when there's evidence that that's not happening? There are plenty of videos and articles and channels that do what you're saying. They're skeptical. They ask the questions. They promote what you would consider to be the viewpoint that you agree with. Like, I'm skeptical. I'm going to be kind of standing back and analyzing here. Okay, good for you. Why are people trying to convince you that they're being quote unquote silenced? Ask that question. If you're about asking questions, well then ask questions. Ask that question. Why are you trying to convince me that you're trying to be silenced? Why? There's plenty of people talking about this that aren't being silenced. Maybe you broke the rules. Maybe you danced on the line. Maybe there's TOS that you actually did in fact break. The greatest element of proof I was given today that YouTube's trying to silence this is that they banned some QAnon channels. Do you think that that's a side that you would like to be on? Zoom all the way out. Zoom all the way out. Keep asking those questions. If you're all about asking questions and being skeptical, be skeptical and suspicious of the people that are trying to convince you that they're trying to be silenced and that, oh, they've been mistreated. And there's plenty of people that aren't getting treated that way. Why? Didn't you get banned without having broken TOS? It can't happen to others on other platforms? Okay, Inno. That's a great question. That's actually a fair question. If you push in on what happened to me, there's evidence that it wasn't handled properly. Okay? Every single time I push in on these claims, like today, somebody talked about a Crowder video. Guess what happened? We pushed in on the claims and it breached TOS. The Mama Max video, pushed in on the claims and it had a 5-second section that needed to be edited out. Do you see the difference? When we push in on the claims, we discover, oh wow, you actually broke the rules. When the Purple platform has a history, they're notorious for two things: not enforcing their rules consistently and banning without cause. So, ask yourself the question, when the Purple platform has a pattern, a traceable pattern of favoritism, nepotism, and inconsistent enforcement of TOS, and over here, what's the pattern? Someone cries wolf and claims they were unjustly smacked down, and when you press in on the claims, wow, there's another side to the story. Your video got demonetized or struck down because it had something in it that broke the rules. Remove it and you're fine. But they don't do that, do they? No, they run to the public and cry that they're being silenced and censored. It's bogus. That's the difference between what happened to me and what these people are claiming. Giant chasm of difference. You can press in on what happened to me, up one side, down the other, and you will find nothing was handled properly. You press in on Mama Max's claims, you press in on Crowder's claims, and what do we find? Breaking of the rules. I'm saying the TOS is wrong, not the enforcement of it. That's fine. If you don't agree with the TOS, I mean, what are you going to do? It's not your platform. Like, right now, Brutal, if they had something in their TOS that said I couldn't wear yellow t-shirts, I'd be like, well, that's dumb. I don't agree with that. But I'm not going to break the rules, or I'm not going to be like, I can't believe I got in trouble for wearing a yellow t-shirt. I'm being censored. I wouldn't do that. I could say I have a fundamental disagreement with the TOS. It seems so arbitrary to be like, you can't wear yellow t-shirts. But if I wore a yellow t-shirt, it would be disingenuous and dishonest for me to run into the public and be like, YouTube's trying to silence me. Well, what'd you do? Well, I wore a yellow t-shirt. It's against the rules, but just believe me here. They're trying to silence me. What? We've come full circle now. Who defines hate speech? I'm not getting into that. I'm not getting into that. Because there are jokes and remarks and things that are considered offensive. And you're totally free to say those things, but a platform can say, we don't want that here. I gave the example earlier. If Dave Chappelle gets out of contract with Netflix with exclusivity and he wants to put all of his comedy specials on YouTube, YouTube is well within their right to say, we think the language that you use and the jokes that you tell don't fit within our TOS. You're labeling it hate speech. Well, it's their platform. They can determine that to the same degree that Netflix determined it was acceptable. Yeah, that's fine. We consider it artistic freedom. They're different platforms with different philosophies of what's acceptable and what's not. Do you understand the difference between me saying, oh yeah, that's hate speech, and me saying, well, they're allowed to determine the severity of what they consider, certain speech, and then they can say, no, we don't want that over here. Like I gave the example earlier, if you went and worked at a business and they made you sign an agreement that said you wouldn't use the word golly when you're at work, you surrender that right when you go work there. And when you make content on a platform like this, you surrender your right to use certain phrases or talk about certain things without the risk of somebody saying, hey, that falls into this category. Like I said, they dance on the line and then they cry wolf. If you don't think that Crowder does that kind of crap on purpose because he knows what's going to happen and then he can weaponize it for clicks and impressions, then you're not paying attention. It's no different than what Amaranth does, right? Love her or hate her, she dances on the lines of TOS and gets banned. Why? Because it's great for top-of-mind marketing, PR, and brand awareness. I guarantee you she has a surge in YouTube activity and OnlyFans purchases anytime she's banned on Purple. It's all a part of the plan. It's all a part of the plan. They dance on the line, and then they get smacked, and then everybody's talking about them. It's great for PR. It's great for PR. If you think otherwise, you've not been paying attention. You're not paying attention if you think this stuff isn't orchestrated and planned. I'm going to dance on the line and get a temporary suspension or get my video taken down, and then everybody's talking about me. It's far more effective than just uploading the video and not dancing on the line. It's far more effective. You get way more clicks. Everybody's talking about you. Oh man, Crowder getting censored again. I don't think they can claim it's our platform because of the size and reach. It's the virtual public square. And I engaged with this earlier, Brutal. This will be where we end it. You can make a strong and a compelling argument that YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook are a quasi-public square and should therefore function as such. You completely demolish that argument the minute you agree to terms and conditions and create an account that is not your own, but it is on their platform that they built. You are no longer operating in the public square. That's kind of the end of it. That's the end of the discussion. You can make a compelling argument. You can. I think you can make a very compelling argument. But the argument doesn't hold water and falls apart under the weight of the reality of the terms and conditions that you sign to and the fact that it's their platform and you make an account on their platform. It's not your account. It's an account on their servers and on their hardware and on their, front-facing website. It's all their stuff, It would be like having a gym membership. Like, you know what I'm saying? You're abiding by their rules. Even though you're paying for it, you're still abiding by their rules. So, we got to change the subject, and we got to go look at this Forbidden West stuff. We got to go look at this Forbidden West stuff. So we're shifting gears. Please do not bring this over to the next stream. Please do not bring this over to the next stream. Oh, whoops, that's not right. That's where we're headed right there. There's a link in chat, and the redirect should bring you with us. Hey, thanks for clicking on the video. This is going to be a breakdown of a lot of the new footage coming out about Horizon Forbidden West. So if you don't want spoilers, you're not going to want to watch this. We're going to be breaking down specifically a lot of the Slitherfang gameplay that came out. Horizon Forbidden West Slitherfang is one of the big bosses, and lots of great footage has come out. We also uploaded a video to SNTR Updates breaking down the skill trees. I'll give you that information in this video as well. There's like 6 skill trees, about 150 skill points, almost double what was in Horizon Zero Dawn. Could mean really good things for the longevity, replayability,